This is Kitten Features, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in his student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wayne in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to ShowX on VtWProductions.com. You're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT, this Sunday, the 17th of February, 2019. Unfortunately, we are not joined as we normally are today by our good friend Ken. He decided to take a moment, take a break to listen in and instead be able to work on his Factorio skills, as we are joined in studio today by a good friend of mine, Scout. And I actually didn't describe before what we wanted to talk to before. So on Twitch, if you are watching, you can follow them both, though, and see streams of them on SmashMuffins on Twitch. But we are going to be talking a special show today about Kingdom Hearts. All about Kingdom Hearts, the entire series, 1, 2, and 3. And with that, we're pretty much going to go in there and say that we are doing a whole show of basically
Dysfunctional Deviations.
So with that, please introduce yourselves as you would like us to talk on the show today.
Hey.
I usually allow gamer tags so that if people want to remain anonymous as they will, but everybody knows I'm Wayne or Doc Dead, so it works out for me that way.
Right on.
Well, I'm John, or Jack Nasius, on all platforms you could imagine.
And I'm Scout City to my friends in gamer chat, but my Twitch stream is SmashMuffins. People will know me as Haley on the social medias, so hi.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
All right, so this came forth a little bit from, actually it came very much from a discussion or chat I had seen at work.
Of me raging out.
Basically, we do have, little bits of networking we do. We don't talk much about work on the show because of things, but there was a chat. We, gamers will unite as we do. And I did see that a lot of discussion that's been happening throughout time now has been about Kingdom Hearts 3 because there was a lot of hype leading up to its release. And I forget, it's only been out now for, 3 weeks maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. I know it's not been a ton of time. It's been out for a little bit. Mm-hmm. It was on my radar as something that I was kind of curious about because for people who might have heard before, I had picked up way back in the day my greatest hits version of Kingdom Hearts that I had started playing several times. And I say this in that I remembered I started one time, not made it very far, and then tried it again. And all I recall of the time I probably put the most effort into it was getting stuck inside, I want to say it was the whale.
Yeah, Monstro. It's the worst.
Monstro.
It's like a labyrinth.
And the problem was I had gotten stuck in it at one point, and then I put the game down for some length of time, and then tried to come back in the middle of Monstro and just could not.
Yeah.
And to the point where I was able to leave and come back, I was like, I have no idea what I was doing. And so I basically quit and gave up on it. Oh. Now, coming back through and knowing that this was coming up for one, I have been binging a little bit. So I started it again, and for people who watch my personal stream, Doc Dead, I played through some of the 1.5 remix, the HD remix, because it's much friendlier.
Yeah.
It's much prettier than little 4x3 as I was going through and looking at the, oh my god, textures in the original. Just like, yep, that's dated. Seen some better times.
Aged.
Yeah. So with that, I started playing through a lot more as fast as I could, and have gotten on. Now, I personally have been avoiding a lot of the side quest stuff, and admittedly have been using a guide as a reference of kind of just where to streamline, where to go. Mm-hmm. Well, I've been doing the same thing when I've been trying to stream and go through Zelda because I've never played through most of the Zelda games. And so with this one, I've made it up to Aladdin, essentially. Made it up to the desert and have started that portion of it. Have only locked up, I think, one world officially right now. I locked up the jungle, I think. Deep Jungle for Tarzan.
Okay.
But that's as far as I'd made it through. Now, at the same time, I did go and watch several videos. Some that were like half-hour long, a couple that were like 3 hours long, that were all labeled as like things you need to know about the story to get ready for Kingdom Hearts 3. I say this, and I do not still believe I'm an authority in any way on the actual Kingdom Hearts storyline because
nobody is.
Well, and that's the thing. Me just watching it, I can only talk to a moment of how convoluted maybe the story is.
Oh, Lord.
But what we're going to do today so that people can be ready is we're going to avoid talking too much plotline, storyline things from the new game. We can talk 1 and 2 fine. For the first portion of the show, we will very specifically warn for anybody who's getting ready to watch or to play it themselves or are still playing through that before we start doing spoilers, I actually made a banner, and just so you can see a test of it, I can put up a banner here that... Oh, wait, did I do it on the wrong one? I thought I fixed it. Oh, come on.
Rip.
Well, no, I just need to turn it off studio mode. There it is. And so I have a banner going up, and you'll see it delayed up there, but that will say warning spoilers going across the middle. And so when we talk about it, that will be on screen. So hopefully we can keep you warned if we get into anything that'll be too plot related. So that you can all play along and not feel like you have to avoid it because you're worried about messing up your experience. So
Fair.
Yeah. So as we get into the storyline stuff, but to introduce you guys a little further, so you're both gamers and you stream a bit. What are kind of some of your favorite games or genre? How would you describe yourself when it gets into the geekdom? And as we kind of set your own geek cred, my audience knows mine. I've been gaming since I was young and childish before most of you all were born. But for your own sake, what do you describe some of the games you love and things like that? I need to establish the authority we have for this discussion.
Me personally, I grew up playing like N64, Sega Genesis. That was my initial era when I was a kid. And then later on got into like, OG Xbox and a little bit of PlayStation 2. I was never PlayStation 1. I was never really a PlayStation kid. When Xbox came around, that's what I had. And I played a lot of like first-person shooters, some RPGs, things of that nature. More action-oriented games, I'd say. And also when I had a capable PC, I'd play like real-time strategy a lot as well. I'm a big fan of that, or 4X games, things of that nature.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the first system I ever owned was the N64. I had a pink see-through one, and it still works to this day.
Ooh.
I got it when I was 8, and my dad and I played a bunch of games. I remember Rayman 2: The Great Escape. I remember the Tarzan game, Super Mario 64, Kirby and the Crystal... What is it? Kirby and the Crystal Shards?
I think so.
Yeah, it was just incredible. And then when I was 10 years old, my grandpa sent me $200 to buy a PlayStation 2, and that was my first. I got to buy my own, and it still works. And I love my PS2.
Is it the big one? Is it the brick?
Yes, it's the brick, and it is the old school brick, and it is old. It is archaic.
See, you say that, and it makes me feel worse because I have gone up to the ranks where I still have in the basement my original PS1, PS2, my original PS3 60 gig backwards compatible, as well as the 2 donated PS3s I've had since that I now, one other backwards compatible that was donated I tried to fix, and then my current that I have out there, which is a Slim that I had eventually purchased from someone, as well as and I was similar in the sense of the kind of the flip side where I did the whole Sony route, where I gave up on the Nintendo route early on, and then I never got into the Microsoft route until the 360.
Okay.
And I did the silly thing where I bought a launch PS3 backwards compatible 60 gig, and then sold it on eBay for $1,000, and then bought a 360 outright cash, as well as made like additional like $400 or $500.
Nice.
And then later went back and bought another one when the prices became normal again.
Sure.
But so when you say it's old and crusty like that, I'm like, what? Mine all still run.
Hey, I'm not talking about
just
you.
Last week. I had all these.
I loved the platforming experience. Jak and Daxter is still one of my favorite games of all time. I actually, when I was 11, I did my first speed run of 100% completion on Jak and Daxter.
Wow.
And I remember feeling really accomplished. I found all those stupid little precursor eggs because that was the worst. I had a Super Mario Wii that I played a lot. Really enjoyed that. I've played several games on the Wii U and the Xbox 360 that I didn't own personally.
Okay.
But I remember playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 and 2 and loved. I am a camper, I know. I can feel the heat from the anger and the rage, but hey, it works for me, so whatever. Just trying to avoid getting eaten by those dogs, right? I remember playing Wind Waker HD Remix, and I loved it. That was the first Zelda game I had ever played, and I fell in love with Zelda games at that point. It was just visually stunning.
That's the one I am currently going through in my Zelda quest. I just finished Majora's Mask, so I'm doing the Wind Waker. I'm trying to do them in chronological without hitting any of the side handhelds.
Yeah.
Because again, main quest line, so I can eventually play Breath of the Wild.
Yes, I have Majora's Mask on the DS.
Is that the version you're playing, or do you have an emulated version for Majora's Mask?
So I went through the I started with Ocarina, N64 Ocarina.
Okay.
Then I did the, what was it, 64 still Majora's Mask?
Yeah.
I believe,
Yes.
because it wasn't GameCube at anything like that yet. And I'm currently doing the Wind Waker HD remix,
So beautiful.
Wii version
Right.
of the HD remix on that one. It's either the Wii or Wii U one. I think the Wii U
I believe
version
it's Wii U, yeah.
that I'm playing on that one.
Yeah.
And then I have next. I'm actually really excited. So I'm loving the look and feel of Wind Waker, especially coming off of Majora's Mask.
Right.
Because admittedly, that one was like, I know people, and we've talked about it inside, people either love or kind of meh Majora's Mask from the overall, like, where you rate them all.
Yes.
And then
I'm definitely a love.
and that's,
on that one.
I mean, because I really did like Ocarina. It reminded me of all the good things that Nintendo does with Zelda type games and
Yeah.
puzzles and stuff like that.
Yes.
Which is also a good kind of framework for as we go to talk about what we will today with what Squeenix does.
Squeenix.
Yeah.
Never heard it.
You've never
called
heard Square Enix's Squeenix?
Squeenix.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna name my dog that.
So no,
Next
it was,
dog
as soon
Squeenix.
as because what was it? Was it originally that Square bought out Enix?
Yeah, Squaresoft bought
Yeah,
out.
bought out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because once that merge happened, we started calling them Squeenix. It's like the Blizz Activision stuff and things like that. Whenever the
Yeah.
mergers happen, that we're kind of like, you know, the things under Bobby Kotick under Blizz Activision that are horrible and evil versus EA
Isn't
stuff.
Blizzard
and-
getting spun off again?
Well, so that's the thing. Blizzard's trying to become its own entity
Yeah.
again because that was just an unholy.
terrible.
Yeah. Things like that. Squeenix has had its own thing because I don't think it really killed anything. It kind of continued its own vein. Like it did still
Yeah.
feel like it was doing the same kind of stuff it always was.
Right.
So that one wasn't nearly as disruptive. So that's almost a term of endearment. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I am looking forward to go into what is it? The next one's crud. Twilight Princess in the HD remix because I know a lot of people for the overall look, feel, and like soul of a game really love that one.
Yes.
So we'll see as we go forward.
And I guess Link's Awakening just got announced as well.
Yeah, is that the remake from? Yeah, they saw the cartoonist one. They saw a video, and that's actually was just released in last week for the Switch. Coming out, they're doing a, I guess, HDS remix, but it's still that top-down feel, but very cartoony.
Yes.
And they're saying they're keeping pretty much everything that you would have loved from it.
So I want to put out a disclaimer for my stream because like I talked a lot about like old school games. I play a lot of casual and indie. I'm not playing any battle royale or first person shooters.
Yet.
Apex.
Yet.
Yeah. I do want to play Overwatch because I love Reinhardt.
I like
And love
Overwatch.
double suiciding people off the edge of the map is my favorite thing. Just the anguish and the anger from people. I'm like, yes.
The trolling them away with you.
Yes,
So you're going to play
absolutely.
some Roadhog as well and do like the suicide
You
poll?
freaking bet I am. So I play a lot of casual and indie, and what John and I discussed when we went into me beginning streaming was that we feel like the market is really saturated with people who are playing first-person shooters and a lot of battle royale.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
so many different battle royale games that have come out, and I've seen a lot of comparisons of Apex. You know,
I'm not good enough to stream those ones in any kind of competitive
I
way.
just embarrassed myself.
Yeah, for me, it's just like, hey, this is fun. You can watch what I'm playing, and I'll stream sometimes.
yeah.
Right.
I still, well, I need to stream it more, but I still play like ARAMs on League of Legends most of the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm so not hip. Wait, I know. No, don't tell me. Until Tetris 99 comes out, right?
You friggin' bet. I love Tetris. We got Tetris Effect on the PlayStation 4, and it is heavenly. It's
is a
so
great game.
beautiful.
So admittedly, I love me some Tetris, and I still have my original Game Boy in the basement with Tetris on it that
Yes.
we played competitively at Game Fest, which I always win. Hey, 200-something lines, constant.
So what I heard is that we're going to be playing Tetris 99.
We'll see.
Okay. Challenge accepted.
No, and I understand that. It's actually, I agree. And some of the things that a lot of our players, in fact, Original Copy on here is one of our aficionados for old school gaming.
Okay.
She follows all the old, and she watches streamers constantly, but she likes a lot of the Indian, especially a lot of the old classics. I say this because she will never let go Phantasy Star Online, the original.
Don't ever
so-
let it go.
And
Whatever it says.
things like
I'll
that.
never
But
let go.
so yeah, no, this is good. So that's actually it's relevant to kind of get that background together and talk about some of those kind of other series that have pretty long arcing, you know, both storylines and lots of games like that. Very similar, I would say, with Kingdom Hearts as a whole. With I would say almost Zelda in the sense that, you know, there may be 3 numbered games that came out for Kingdom Hearts, but there aren't 3 games.
Not at all.
And I forgot the actual list of how many there are. Did you guys play through any of the ones beyond the main
Yeah.
titles?
Well, we
We started Birth by Sleep.
Birth by Sleep, so we're sort of in the middle of that, which has without saying anything too specific, does play an important role in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Very important.
But yeah, that's the only other one I think we've tackled outside of the mainline games.
I did start playing Union X on my phone, which takes place
if you
during
count the mobile
Keyblade
games.
Wars.
Well, that's the thing. I don't even know how many there are total, but they apparently all now tie together canon-wise, which is odd for anything that includes Final Fantasy characters.
Yes,
Yeah.
but a lot of them do rehash some of the original story. And we played Birth by Sleep, and we want to get Dream Drop that wasn't included in one of the packages for the PS4. We want to play Dream Drop and Birth by Sleep because they're the most highly rated among the games outside of the three main, like Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3. So that's why we were tackling those. I like Union X. It's like a turn-based game. It's very cute. It's very chibi-like. It's, the art's really pretty. It does include some of the Disney characters. You can level up really hard in the game. And without spoiling anything, the ending of Kingdom Hearts 3 kind of hashes back on that. So you guys should play Kingdom Hearts 3 if you haven't played it yet.
Well, and that's funny because going through a little bit of the lineage videos and stuff like that, I saw, again, not going into the story a ton, but essentially, one came out, and then a couple of the other side ones, then 2 hit, and then they kind of went back in time and filled out a lot of the story to kind of, I think there's discussion on whether it was intended initially, by the time 2 was finished, for the story to go the direction it has been. But when they came out with, I just forgot the name of the one you said, but the
Union X?
No, the original, or the other one.
Birth by Sleep?
Yeah, Birth by Sleep. That one apparently fleshed out a lot and defined a lot of what they wanted the story to become.
Yes.
I can definitely see that.
And so I've heard that a lot in the videos coming back. Okay, so just kind of talking through a little bit, and it's fun that we have a combination of the action gameplay and more the platformer and kind of RPG type backgrounds where I try to blend myself across as many genres as I can to some degree. Playing through Kingdom Hearts 1, for me, the general gameplay is very much, I don't know, it's almost, I don't know if it reaches back to other games in a genre that kind of compare it to, but for me, it's an action platformer with RPG elements.
Yes.
Because I don't even necessarily would call it a true action RPG in that sense, because, and I say this mostly because jumping puzzles, but in the sense that it is, though, I would say it is definitely an action game. It's a lot of fighting, but it has the aspects of me that it has puzzling in it, it has exploration in it, it has leveling up and getting your characters up to the point of grinding if you choose and stuff like that.
Yes.
All of those aspects that kind of bring pieces of all those genres together, in general, at least in the first one. And I'm assuming they kept that kind of formula through 2 and 3 and the other games as well. Although I'll be curious to hear from your perspectives as we talk about it in more detail, what's progressed, what's kind of changed, or maybe got better as things went. I'll be very curious. Because in Kingdom Hearts 1, and for me playing through it again, there were some things. One, because I, emulating and having an Xbox 360 controller as my main controller, or Xbox One, I guess. Always the button figuring it out again, and I don't look at the buttons, but thankfully I can remember that it's, triangle, square, circle, X for PlayStation. Darn Sony games. Sorry, Sony, you have, other than the N64 controller, yours has got to be the worst.
I agree.
Microsoft figured it out and they pulled it off in PC gamers.
For the record, I do not agree with them. I love the PlayStation controller.
Oh,
It's what I play because I played it the most. On it. No, I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Thumbsticks are so bad.
It's just so cute. It fits so perfectly.
No. It was fine when they first came out in the original betas and they were here and I could play Gran Turismo yay.
When analog sticks were a novel thing, it was great.
Yeah, but once you grew up and realized your hands could actually fit there in a way that you could play for hours. Now, admittedly, and I just had this conversation with, who was it? My friend Schmitty. I was just talking to Shady. Because he has one of the original, or got one of the Nintendo Classics.
Yeah.
Admittedly, everyone is doing better than Nintendo's first foray with the original rectangular cut-your-hands-off controllers where your thumbs would wear thin after 30 minutes of gameplay. You got that. But Sony, I give you credit for coming out with it, but man, Microsoft figured it out better.
Nintendo was pretty adventurous in those early days.
Yeah, they were, and still are, and they're still a mess. I'm sorry, the Switch controllers by default are terrible.
Yeah.
You have to have a pro controller, in my opinion, and the Wii controllers were just bad. Just bad.
I just...
and Switch controls as individual controls when you try to switch out two-player.
I will never play that, ever. No.
Trying to play Overcooked with that darn thing.
Oh god.
Do not even get me started on that. Seriously, I have so much anxiety right now. Or like Human Fall Flat, you're just like, what are you doing? It's like the smallest baby. I have these tiny hands. I need a Big Mac for scale. Okay.
Right. These are not tiny. These are average, and they're still too small. So anyhow, but so yeah, trying to figure it out and played it, but through emulation on the Xbox controller. So beyond that, it actually runs really well and it's fun. So with Kingdom Hearts, I mean, a lot of the main gameplay from what I've experienced, going through initial storyline where, I don't know if it continues on the others, starting out on the island, kind of not knowing what's going on, but with a lot of initial storyline kind of thrown in there. And it's a Squeenix game, and even the original ones were, so there's video, and there's cutscenes, and I've heard they only get more.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of story elements taught through that, and it's interesting because I know the first time playing through Kingdom Hearts 1, I had no idea what was going on, and just kind of playing through, and it's like, oh, cool, Disney characters, and Final Fantasy characters, that's fun. Let's see how this goes. And playing through, and it really feels like I'm just grinding through levels, beating up Heartless, and eventually running into boss fights. I mean, it is fun gameplay, but the story elements of it are a challenge there. And it's going to be so hard to not delve into that until later. At least the first ones aren't so bad. Because having watched the videos, I know there's more going on. And so now when I play through it, it makes a little more sense. It was what's going on, especially when I'm playing through, because your main character is what? Sora?
Yes.
Yep. And I always mess it up because the two main characters on the island with him are Kairi and
Riku.
Kairi and Riku. And I always mess up which one's which when I first am reading it.
Oh my god.
Until they come back in. Because you spend so much of the first game without them.
Yes.
Like the little bit you get is once the Heartless attack the island and your star goes dark, that when you're going in and running into the room with the lock, and this is where I mess them up. Is it Kiri that's there? Kairi? Okay, Kairi's there.
The part where she's like, Sora.
And then
she's like,
all of a sudden an explosion happens and she comes flying at you but flies through you. Now for me, and spoiler for those who haven't played the first one, as I understand it, it's not that she just disappears. Her heart gets captured in your heart at that point, Sora's heart. That a piece of her comes in because her body is eventually found heartless, but kept up because she's so pure so she didn't actually turn.
She, her heart's not lost yet, but she is in a weakened state, and it's because Sora holds on to her for so long that her heart is preserved within Sora.
Because there's a lot of that happens through the stories.
Yes, and I think that they've beat that dead horse. And we'll get into that later when that beautiful banner's on that screen.
I'm very curious because I know from even what I'm playing, just knowing the storylines, just I say this because every time he suddenly has a ghostly image of her that no one else sees, I'm like, well, I know why.
Yeah.
Because she's in you. Ha! Go figure.
Definitely.
He's inside you. Yeah, and I always thought that was sort of the metaphor was your friends are never really gone. They're always, in your heart. You always carry them with you, right? It was just sort of
some people more literally than others.
Right. Well, they just took it really, really literally.
Exactly. Let alone who is supposed to have a Keyblade versus not, and who's, all the things.
That gets even worse as you go on.
Awesome. All right, so getting back to the mechanics of the game and such, for me, it was a lot of just, what do I say? There was a desire for me to grind, because you just go in there and it's a lot of action beat up stuff for the most part, because there's not a lot of combination going on. There are combos in the game, and they do it, I would say, somewhat ingeniously, in that depending on if you're in the air, if you're, attacking up at someone to start the attack, or down and around. Again, this is Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yes. My
perspective. As well as admittedly it took me about, 7 hours into the game, 6 hours in the game, before I figured out the hotkey or the button you use during combat for the shortcut for spells. Mm-hmm. That made things a lot easier. Otherwise, I was like, why would you cast a spell? You have to go through the menu and then switch from your analog running around to hitting the down.
A lot of people forget about the customize option in the start menu, and it is beautiful, especially when you get Cure and you're like, yes.
And that was really where I was like, that's right. I can get rid of the useless Blizzard and put it on Cure.
Yeah, right?
Thank you. It was that aspect, and when I finally learned that you can actually put potions on your other characters and have them heal and not just be useless.
Arrow, gravity, Cure, and then I usually put on an item. Those are my go-tos.
Let alone kitting him out with other gear and stuff like that. I was like, I don't have to leave them all on their base things.
No, not at all.
That was a nice, appreciation of moving faster in the game.
Yes, definitely. I will note on something that you said earlier. Now, from what I noticed before we like really get into KH3, 1 and 2 really harped on a lot on your gameplay style. So I've noticed that there's like 2 main trees when it comes to your ability points. There's like more blocking and then counterattacks, or there's more aerial combat. And so I personally kind of choose more aerial combat. And with every boss that you fight, there is a strategy. And I think that's really cool, especially for the original games before 1.5 and 2.5 came out. As people, a lot of nostalgia. We all kind of remember how to defeat certain bosses.
Gotcha.
Like that has always stuck with me. Like I remember explaining to John, I'm like, oh, okay, so in this boss, I need to, defeat all the limbs first and then go for the main torso, or then
with the floating armor bosses.
Yeah, floating armor bosses, or with the chameleon. I need to wait until he's like visible. Like when the chameleon guy goes invisible, you beat up Clayton and then whatever.
You need to focus Clayton over the Snick.
Or when you fight Riku, I know you haven't gotten through it yet. There's
not the main one, yeah.
There's a certain ability that you need to have equipped, and it makes things so much easier. And it's like once you get that one, you're like, oh, it's on, and you're like ready to fight him anyway.
Well, it's funny because in the guide they suggest a lot of those things.
Yes.
And anyone who's watched me play at all, let alone Zelda, I'm even worse. I have one strategy. Beat the living crap out of something and stay close to it and just keep beating it up.
Yes.
Until that fails a lot. And then I sometimes change it.
Yeah.
But normally that's my only strategy. And I think Copy's been the one most subjected to it, where she's seen me just beat things. She's like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. You're supposed to cast this spell or go back. I'm just like, rah!
So I'm the same way. I'd like to bang my head against the wall before I actually...
See, I'm not like that.
Before I won't take the step back. I got to go at it for an hour before I really...
Oh, God.
And then, I'm like,
me fighting against Cerberus the first time going through, or just that fight took me probably an hour. That's when I learned I can put potions on the other characters.
Yes.
That made a big difference.
Or you can turn off the fact that every item that you give them, they use immediately.
Oh, God.
You can change like in dire need, or like when, like you can change it from like always use, occasionally use, rarely use, and that makes it so much easier.
Well, so it's funny because I am waiting, admittedly, for Donald to get a cure, so that I can not get cured ever, because I keep hearing the meme forever in life. I've heard
Dolan, please.
Yeah,
Dolan.
And all you hear is the Naga or whatever it is, versus ever playing or curing anybody.
Yes,
he'll use potions quick, but
as far as the strategy stuff is concerned, especially for KH2, it's very important, especially when you go up against Organization 13 members. It makes an enormous difference knowing that strategy. So kind of gazing at your opponent, even if you're going to die within the first time of you facing them, kind of figure it out and kind of go along with it. It'll make a bigger difference and kind of condition you or train you, or you know what I'm saying? It'll prepare you for later bosses.
For certain things.
Yes, you look for patterns. Yeah, pattern analysis is really big with it.
It's one of the brilliant things of any of these kind of gameplays, any true good RPG or long-term adventure game. They teach you things early on in mechanics that eventually become key or very important later on.
Yes.
And if they're smart about it, they don't necessarily throw it in your face, but allow you to kind of see the same quirk or the same tick or the same thing that'll let you know that, oh, that's what's happening. I need to attack this first, then that it opens up this and things like that. And so, no, I do appreciate any game that's good at that. And that's, again, where, in a comparison, I didn't think about this ahead of time, how much I'll probably do this. Zelda, I think, has always been really amazing at the ability to teach ability skills and tools before you necessarily need them, as well as, and I think both games do this a lot, once you've learned that abilities to go back and revisit areas that they teased you ahead of time, to then use those abilities to ways to get to new items, unlocks, areas, things like that.
Yes.
I think both games do a good job of that.
I agree.
Yeah, Zelda was always good at as soon as you would acquire an item or an ability,
you probably are going to use that.
You're probably going to use it in the next room, or there's some puzzle you can use. It's specifically used for immediately after.
Yes,
so, I always appreciated that because it's they have to teach you the gameplay mechanics somehow, and
they do it without force feeding it, right?
Yeah.
Without doing they usually present a challenge in a light enough way that you can bang your head against it, but then learn, and then you're like, oh, I could do this, that's cool. And then when it comes up again, you start to feel kind of like a boss, where you're like, look what I did. Yeah, I got that. I got you. I know what we're doing. So that's really cool. But, and I'm trying to think, because in a way, Kingdom Hearts does that as well, at least in the first, but at the same time, tease me in a way that I'm not loving, because their revisit rate, I would say, is probably a bit ridiculous. Yeah. Because, and for me, it's nothing, if nothing else, but the Trinity abilities. that when you have, and the fact that you have to have your 3 core parties to do any of the trinities bugs me.
I hate that part.
Bugs me so much. I didn't learn that until Tarzan. I got him and it was like, oh, this, and it was like, no. I was like, really? So I have to run back to save point, change out party, come back, like, just, and so it's like, why would I use others other than a boss fight here and there? But I see, like, from the beginning of Traverse Town or something, there's the white ones that I can't do yet.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I've seen it since the get-go. I know it's there in the, whatever shop.
It's based on the worlds that you defeat.
And I'm just like, grr, right? Grr. And so I'm like, so they have teases like that. Some of them I've enjoyed, whereas revisiting, I can get to certain areas and I know there's more.
Mm-hmm.
So the previous Trinities I've enjoyed, just the Stomp and now the Smash that I have with the blue. And I actually like the blue, or is it the red one? The red one Smash. I like that because, watching all 3 of your characters run into something to open it is just, to me, in its own level of entertainment. Silliness, but yeah. Did you feel that way, though? That, well, for me, I will say I give the edge to Zelda in that its ability to teach and revisit and things like that were not as, I don't know. I was more willing to do that in those. And I say this even after playing Majora's Mask, which was pushing that.
Right.
Talk about revisit.
People get really, up in arms about games like holding your hand too much, but there's a game that can only do 2 things. It can either show you how to do something or it can tell you how to do something. And Kingdom Hearts, in my opinion, has the problem of only telling you how to do something, and even then you have to kind of go looking for it to then tell you how to do it. Especially in the early games, I've noticed you'll get an ability or you'll get something, and the game doesn't typically mention it, or you just have it now, and then you have to figure out what it does and how it's used, and it's a trial and error kind of thing. It seems like.
I kind of don't mind that though. Like, I don't mind being given a bunch of stuff or a bunch of items and being like, what does this do? And then you figure out, oh, this magic spell is for defense. I should probably start using this more in the fights that I keep losing.
Well,
or
so it doesn't bother me so much in mechanics with fighting. And I don't need the hand holding through that because I think it allows you to create your own style and choose how you want to fight. It bothers me a little bit when it comes to, especially with Kingdom Hearts, platforming and the actual game mechanics of how you traverse the world or how you unlock certain areas or get through certain things like that. That's a bit of a grr to me, where admittedly without the guides, there are several things that I could see where artificially, in my opinion, the game would suddenly extend significantly longer. Because already I'm only looking at the guide, not even quite halfway through of just the core storylines, not even going to do all the side quest type things, and I'm 7+ hours in with a guide going linear straight through, and there's still so much I need to do and things I need to go back to and such, that if I had seen that chest up there that many times and I had no idea to get there, I might have spent an additional half hour just banging around in the world to figure out that actually I can't get there yet because I have to go back to this other thing, push this one shelf out of the way in Aladdin's room to hit the one button that now unlocks the other door that you could then get to. And it's give me reminiscent. Well, and actually I think the worst one would have been when I was in Wonderland.
Wonderland is notorious for being a pain.
Oh, because
in the rear.
There's just so many ways, because again, you revisit the same 4 main areas in that world so many times from different perspectives. And the idea, especially from the core of the little mushroom area where you have the Lost Woods or such that was there, that you have to jump around and go through different holes that, depending on what you're going through, will open up different areas. And depending on what you've activated before, different aspects of the... Because you all go back to the Bazaar Room, and the Bazaar Room...
The orientation of the room.
Yeah, the orientation of the room and what items are available because what's popped out or not in the stuff. And that, I was like, without the guide, I probably would have lost my crap there. And I do know that the first time I played through there, I did the base necessity to finish that story and did almost nothing else because I didn't have the patience. And also, admittedly, I'm very much, you give me a goal in a game, and I will go directly to it.
Well, see, that's why Kingdom Hearts 2 sits so highly for me as one of my favorite games I've ever played, because they took a lot of the lessons that were hard lessons to learn about Kingdom Hearts 1, and they fixed that in Kingdom Hearts 2. So when you go back and you revisit a world, you actually revisit each world, I think, twice, usually. You do a first playthrough, then you have a halfway midpoint. Just like in the first game, you kind of have a halfway kind of boss fight or a goal that you have to reach. And then you and then you complete the rest of the worlds. But Kingdom Hearts 2 allows you to go through the majority of the worlds that you need to. Then there's like a halfway battle, and then you go through them again. So you take the lessons learned, or like maybe the objects, like, okay, maybe now I have double jump or glide, and I can get to these objects now more quickly, or there is a secret boss in this area, and I can defeat him now because I have a higher level Keyblade, or things like that. So I think they fixed a lot of those issues, and definitely
that's
harped
good
a
to
little
hear.
bit harder on their strategy. Yeah, I recommend, if you haven't played 2.5, I do recommend
I have
it.
not. It will be on my list as I go forward.
Okay.
Because I do hope to still play through it. Because admittedly, one of the things what drew me to the game I mentioned earlier was the Disney tie-in, right? The worlds
Yes.
that you explore are pretty much all Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoy seeing, and I've chuckled multiple times with Kingdom Hearts 1, going through and seeing certain characters, how they're portrayed, be it the good voice acting that comes in some of that, to just the characters doing what they should do in those situations.
Yes.
And one of the things I enjoyed just at the beginning was when they were hinting at who the villains were, which is like, you see the shadow of the character, you know exactly who the villains are.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who knows a thing about Disney, right?
Right.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's kind of like, haha, I see Ursula sitting back there, right? Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Seeing which villains are going to come out
She's
next.
one of the worst bosses. She drives me crazy. And he knows that when we went in to go complete that boss, I was just like, oh, I remember when I was a kid and I was trying to fight her. It was like 20 times. I think I died 20 times. And then finally I got fed up and I was like, Dad, because I played with my stepdad in this game.
Nice.
I'm like, Dad, please help me. And he's like, oh, fine. And then he would sit there and try to grind and beat the game. So I explicitly remember how much I hate fighting her. Oh my God.
Oh, I do understand the beating your head against a boss
Yes.
very well. Very well. Now, and so, like, the worlds and kind of that aspect of it and playing through some of the story elements that you get from knowing the stories themselves, to me, is a blast, right? That is so much fun. Admittedly, just last night, I watched Christopher Robin the rest of the way through, the live-action movie they made.
Oh, how was it?
Oh, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we really liked
It's a great nostalgia of the true sense of Winnie the Pooh, right?
Yay.
Yeah.
And to me, that's one of my absolute classic childhood things from Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the same thing where right now, admittedly, I know it's one of the side quests, and one is the 100 Acre Woods or 1,000. I forget.
Yeah,
if it's
100 Acre Wood.
Yeah, you got it.
That I kind of want to take that side quest just to see it, just to see the characters, right?
Right.
Just to go in there and be like, hey,
Because that was always the
It's
allure,
wonderful.
right? Of that's the selling point initially. Is like, hey, you get to have a video game where you get to go to all these awesome Disney worlds that we're all nostalgic about from our childhood, right? And but you get to fight around. It's a whole new story. It's not like anything you've seen.
and that's the beauty, right? Because they treat the characters as though they're in the middle of their stories in many cases,
Right.
And haven't played through it. They're not characters that have already done this,
Right.
At least in the first one. In the first one, you're going through the initial storylines and you kind of intermix into it, which is great. You're kind of playing the game,
Yeah.
or the game is playing the story. And for me, unless you were playing one of those specific games, you never got that in a lot of other things, especially with Disney IP. To actually get in there and actually play through. And it was a challenge for me because, like, some worlds are more or less my thing. The Deep Forest with Tarzan, less my thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that area actually.
Well, it's
one
because
of my favorites.
it's because I don't love Tarzan the animated movie.
Oh,
Like,
see,
I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. It was fun. I know the character. I actually like Clayton as being such a villain in it, and the way he's
Yes.
portrayed. I was like, yeah, okay, that's cool. But I don't think they did enough with the apes and stuff like. There's little things where I was like, okay,
Yeah,
fine.
definitely.
Where I get a little like even, and honestly, second on that was probably Hercules. Is equally one that I think I've honestly seen Hercules once all the way through.
You're kidding me. Oh my gosh.
I enjoy it. I remember
was that part
it.
of the Renaissance? The
I
Disney
know
Renaissance,
it.
Hercules
Sure.
and Mulan and
Yeah,
so-
it wasn't as
well-
highly rated as the other.
Oh, it's so
Well, I
movies
finally,
of the era.
and I finally just saw all of Mulan, all of.
Oh my god,
just
that
like
is my
last
favorite
year.
Disney movie of all time.
And so-
Oh my lord.
Yeah,
Oh.
we could have a whole side discussion
You're
on this.
hurting me. You're hurting
Well-
my heart right now. Just wait till the second game because you actually get to go to Mulan's world and it is awesome. And fighting with Mulan is the best. Oh yeah, Mushu. Oh my
I feel
gosh.
like that's one of the really joys of the Kingdom Hearts series, and it's actually one of the things I've talked about with Copy because she's not a big proponent of Kingdom Hearts, but she's also not a big Disney nut. And so it kind of ties and makes sense, right? Because for me, loving Disney, there are things that I see it. That's why, like I said, I will probably go to the 100 Acre Wood because I want to see Pooh and Tigger
Yes.
and Roo and everybody, right? Where in the main, like in Traverse Town for a little bit, having the Final Fantasy characters and stuff, seeing a little bit of the various ones, and even on the original island was fun because I'm having a little bit of nostalgia between them. Honestly, when Cloud came up in Hercules, I was like,
yes.
all right, finally you get to my boy. right? Because I am a Final Fantasy VII kid in the sense that is still my favorite. As much as people talk about that, 7 is my favorite. It's what brought me in. I got it on my original PlayStation. It was that and Tekken that I sat down and played the bejesus out of in my dorm when I joined the Navy and was here first. You know, that was the first purchase I made outside of boot camp, essentially, or out of A school, was coming here, going down to the BX on Fitzsimmons, grabbing one, walking my ass back because I had no car, across base, sitting down, plugging it into my little terrible TV that they had in there with the little, cable connection in the back, and playing hours of Final Fantasy VII, right? And so that's still my thing. So seeing those characters come in, like, God, if I could see Barrett or something, it'd be amazing. And so I can see that draw, right? Even just the nostalgia aspect of the worlds has been big for me. And different, although the gummy ship thing makes no sense to me. I do not get it. And I tried to make one. I modeled one just last night. Sorry for anyone who watched that stream copy, where I tried to model Serenity. And I kind of did.
I'm so proud of you.
But because Serenity doesn't have a gun, I still tried to put guns on it, but I ended up putting like all my guns on it, which meant I run out of power like that quick. And so like, now I'm playing like Serenity. I can only dodge. I have no guns. And it was going to the first warp zone, and so all it was like masses of people. I was like, oh crap. Yeah, mistakes were made. But I do not understand like the gummy ships, little things like that. But then like the core Disney stuff, Mickey, Goofy, Donald, which thankfully they're there, right? And those things to me are awesome. And
just
probably
wait
one
till
of my
you get to the
biggest
second
draws.
game. Oh my gosh, you're gonna love it.
Okay, so and we're touching back to it, but the world itself, that is my cousin upstairs probably laughing at something. And I saw the turn like, what was that?
Yeah, sorry, I'm like...
Yeah. No.
It's like that weird that door knock thing. Remember we talked about that earlier?
Before the stream.
Yes.
Catching it on side, yes.
Yeah.
So, okay. So with the worlds and kind of just speaking through the first two initially as we set the stage here. Actually, we're almost on the first hour, so this is good.
Cool.
What are some of your favorites that you've experienced? And don't worry about spoiling it for me a little bit because I will continue through. But some of the best worlds in 1 and 2 that you guys have seen as we get ready to talk all things 3.
You're the expert. I'll let you...
Well, and from each of your personal, right? Because I know what I've enjoyed of the worlds, and it's based on what I love.
I really like Agrabah. The town area kind of sucks. It is kind of annoying with the button presses and trying to reach everything. But once you get inside of the Cave of Wonders, there's a lot of puzzle elements, and it's really fun. Like that to me reminded me of a lot of the dungeons in Wind Waker, because a lot of it has to do with like, okay, going back and entering your room. Okay, there's this button here thing, or this. I have to use a boo to like trigger the golden statues with holding the eggs and stuff. So, once you realize you can use a boo to like jump from like one area to another. Okay, a door went down. Okay, it looked like it was in this room. Okay, that door wasn't open before, so you can go and traverse that, and that's pretty cool. I will always have a special place in my heart for Neverland.
That makes sense.
Because I love Peter Pan.
I do love Peter Pan. I am looking forward to all things Neverland.
Wish they had done the platforming a little bit different in that game, but not bad. It's all right. Not a big deal. Hollow Bastion is fantastic. Just trying to traverse that. Talk about puzzles. Good Lord. It is beautiful. And I also like it in the second game as well, because it makes an appearance in the second game in the town and everything. And so it's less about actually being inside of the castle in the second game, but you're actually in the area known as Radiant Garden. And it's wonderful. It's very, very cool. And you get to be a little bit more personal with the Final Fantasy characters as well. And I love Leon very much in that game. I think that he's really kind of gruff and tough on the outside, and then he's just a big softie on the inside. And he really does have a very special place in his heart for Sora being so brave and being selected as a Keyblade wielder and all of that. And he's just a great support character. Like I really appreciate Leon. Cloud makes an appearance as well in the second game, so I'm sure you'll enjoy that. I like the Mulan world, but specifically because I love Mulan as a character. She's my favorite Disney character of all time. I love her, not because she's a tough female warrior. Okay, it's
that's bonus.
A little bit of that, yeah, but
it doesn't hurt.
But the music and sort of the story and some of the boss fights in that game are actually pretty cool, especially when you go through it a second time around. I'm trying to think of what else I really liked about the second game. I like Twilight Town a lot.
See, I'm thinking that's one I will also enjoy.
Yeah. It's very beautiful.
Now, is that one Nightmare Before? Or which one's Twilight?
Twilight Town. Well, you don't see it in the first game.
Oh, okay, so maybe.
It's based off of like Roxas's world, and
Oh,
so
no, I don't know that one. Never mind.
unfortunately they take away Traverse Town, which I didn't understand why they did that. They took away Traverse Town from the first game and replaced it with a new world called Twilight Town, which you
Okay.
can visit in 3. And it's very sweet. Like the music is very cheerful and lovely and nice, and it has like good story every time you go back. It's always something new and something interesting, which I enjoy. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really liked. The end of the world level is pretty intense, just solely because you know that you're kind of entering the end game and you're starting to hit like one boss after another, and you really do need to have a good strategy going into it. You should probably grind before you hit that area. And it's
Try
just
to get all the way to 100?
yes. Oh, and in the second game, Cornerstone Hill. And I don't want to spoil anything for you. Do you want me to tell you?
So in second game, I'm okay. Everything
Okay.
first, second. I mean, honestly, throughout the series, I'm not worried about spoilers
Okay.
because I like the experience of the challenge of the gameplay itself.
Yes.
The story elements, when I get to live them, are fun.
Yeah.
And so it's not a terrible thing for me to have seen it.
So-
Movies, I'll kick you in the head. But
Disclaimer.
game-wise, I'm not
I don't
want
want to be karate chopped in the head or kicked. Disclaimer. Now, I have a weird phobia of like old school cartoons because I watched Twilight Zone the movie, the Steven Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy rendition, and when that little kid puts his sister Helen in the TV and that giant monster eats her, it really freaks me out. So I don't like old school cartoons. But
Interesting.
Cornerstone Hill in Kingdom Hearts 2, you actually go back in time and visit black and white old school Mickey and Pete
Oh,
and
some like Steamboat Willie type.
yes,
or
and
others.
Clarabelle Cow and everybody, and it's very awesome. Like even Sora gets drawn as an old school
Okay,
Disney
that's
character.
cool.
It's beautiful. It is so cool. And like whenever you hit things, all the stars and like the cloud pop up, like like Pow and Pam and
Oh, okay,
all that,
that
stuff.
would
It's
be
very
fun.
precious. It's really cool how they did that. And you get to play through some of the most famous cartoons, like old school Disney cartoons. I believe we actually researched that after it was done. It was like, were each of these cartoons in the actual like real Disney?
Yeah, they're all Kingdom Heartsified renditions of the short, like old Disney shorts. So
Yeah.
black and
Okay.
white Disney shorts.
Yes.
And some of them in color too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that world is probably my favorite.
It's
across
so
the,
beautiful.
I could
Across
see
the
that
two
one
games.
drawing
and
me.
Yeah.
and the sound and the voices of the characters, it sounds like it's all muffled, like it's not done in HD, like the audio.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
they-
awesome.
Oh my God,
They did
Wayne,
like a-
you're
yeah.
gonna love it. It is so beautiful.
Okay,
It's
that
so
that I will
sweet.
look forward to because
Yes.
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, they did an incredible job, and like Mickey was a troublemaker back in the day, but now he's the king, so he has to like kind of straighten up. So you kind of
that's
see him
actually-
bounce through
I was
the
gonna
world.
say that's funny in the context of Kingdom Hearts because it is King Mickey
Yes.
throughout, and so being able to relive or something of his past, that sounds
it's
hilarious.
It's very cool. Yeah.
I think
so,
that world alone makes Kingdom Hearts 2 worth the price of admission, in
Nice.
my opinion.
Yes.
Just to see it and play through it and get a sort of nostalgia for something that was even before our time, but you know about and it's important for Disney lore.
Definitely, yeah.
So-
And I would say those are pretty good. Beast Castle is always good. Lion King level's okay because when you're trying to get used to running around as a lion and you can like just dash just like 100 miles an hour. Sorry, hit the mic, but you can just like pow, and you're like, oh, I missed the save point. You got to turn around and like catch up to it. It's just silly. So
Nice.
I would say the first ones I named are pretty great.
Nice.
Yeah.
And for my money, some of the worlds, only having played Kingdom Hearts for the first time a few months ago, and not having grown up with it, not having played it in the era that they first came out.
Well, it makes sense too because now you're looking back where everything's already been out. All these
Yeah.
stories have been told, so now you're just kind of going through. It's not like it's fresh.
Yeah, and to me that was the biggest issue I had with it is it all felt dated. It definitely felt like, wow, we've advanced so far beyond this and not just like graphics. I'm talking like mechanics.
Yeah,
and,
it's certain
and-
things that we ask of you as a player to do or deal
Exactly.
with.
The
Because it's not
quality-
even just the
Yeah,
the way you play the game. It's the pacing of things. It's
Sure.
the way storytelling's
Yeah.
done and things like that. That
all
yes,
of it. Things are so different now, and the quality of life is, I would argue, much better now. In the way we develop games.
I like how you say that. It is absolutely a quality of life
It
issue.
is.
It's how we play the games.
Yeah.
It's where I talk in other news like the good things that League of Legends did for the MOBA type games. It's
Yeah.
what I think Apex Legends has done for the Battle Royale games.
I
It's
would agree.
It's UI things. It's what kind of puzzles or things are presented versus just
like
in the old school where it was like just keep beating your head against the same kind of thing over and over.
For
jumping puzzles.
Exactly, yeah. For action RPGs nowadays, yeah, Kingdom Hearts is the granddaddy, but we're past that now. We've advanced beyond this now, and to go back and play it was sometimes a slog. It felt like
That's a good way to put it. Well, because there's nostalgia and you remember these things, but at the same time you're like, but we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, things aren't like this anymore. Like I can save anywhere I want in any game nowadays. I don't have to go to a save point.
So that is something that I think that's a wonderful transition into about the kind of things that have morphed and changed. And when you go back and play some of these games, some of the challenges, because for me, and I keep saying it under my breath, but jumping puzzles are the death of me. It's one thing if games have a quick sum of them here or there,
sure,
not a big deal. Or if they're very straightforward and the consequence is just an annoyance. Where I was raging last night, was to end the deep jungle scene, you go up the waterfall.
Oh, I love that part.
That jump puzzle aspect of it was the worst damn experience in existence.
I think it's great.
Because you miss it by the tiniest bit, or Sora would grab a ledge and you don't hit the up because you were trying to jump again or something, and you fall off and you start over, and you just... So many times I was like almost there. And I'd miss the one jump and to like the bottom of the world and have to start again and just like, anyone listening to that part of the stream, the rage. No, I'm good about that. Okay. I've gotten very good.
That would have been me.
But I do express myself still. Yeah. And that just, so the reason I say it is because there's several times where I've had to do jumping puzzles in this game that it just feels archaic. And partly,
that is a good description.
And I will say the reason is because of the camera.
Yep.
Holy cow, the camera controls in this game. And this is something for anytime we run into a 3D platformer. They've all had various levels of issue with camera. I mean,
difficult.
Mario 64 is one of the first ones that really did that kind of thing out there a bunch, had camera issues, right? Yep. Kingdom Hearts 1. Man, that camera has made me want to just not punch the screen, but I have had moments.
Take a break.
I've had moments, yes. Just emotion.
I'll say this about the game. If you don't end up playing through it, I think you can catch up on a lot of what happens in Kingdom Hearts 1 when you play Kingdom Hearts 2. They do kind of a better recap.
Oh, nice.
Better than what they did in Kingdom Hearts 3.
You mean?
And we will discuss
that. Yes, we'll get there
soon. .jpg. And for me, I think that, again, as I've said, they really un-effed themselves on Kingdom Hearts 1. When they developed Kingdom Hearts 2, they definitely fixed a lot of stuff. So
is one of the aspects kind of that the type of platforming puzzling that they do, that they present into, is that changed much? Is it refined?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely didn't notice as many jumping puzzles in Kingdom Hearts 2 as 1. Not as crazy. They had some other puzzle aspects that are kind of cool. They have some like little kind of like mini games, like you do some escort missions and you do like a timed, not a timed puzzle. It's kind of timed. Like you have so many bosses to defeat in this time.
Okay. And there's a few timed elements in one with different, like the challenges in Hercules in Olympus and stuff like that.
Yeah, kind of like
there's
that.
There's little ones there
but
and there.
But it's less about like the Colosseum aspect and trying to get a trophy for something. Well, actually, I take that back because they actually do have timed elements in some of the in the Underdrome, which is the underworld dome for the Colosseum, which is actually pretty cool. They definitely fixed some of that, but they incorporated it in the actual gameplay, which I thought was really nice.
Okay. How many years was it between 1 and 2?
I believe it was 3 or 4. Okay. Or it was 2002 and 2004 when Kingdom Hearts 2
I am going to do the wiki.
Yeah, please do that, because I think it was 2002 and 2004, but I could be wrong.
And I asked that because obviously, even though Kingdom Hearts 1 came out in 2001, it was being developed, probably back starting in 1998 or 99, right? You got to imagine. Mm-hmm. So think about how...
God, there's so many. I forget again how many there are.
Yeah.
So I go back, it's like, wait. Okay. So the first game came out in Japan March 28th of 2002 on the PlayStation 2 was Kingdom Hearts. Mm-hmm. 2 came out...
was it 2006?
2005. So there's 3 years between.
Okay.
To now. Between them... It says, on Game Boy, Chain of Memories came out in 2004. Mm-hmm. And then Hearts Coded in '08. Then 358 by 2, which is the other big one that I keep hearing about. In '09, Birth by Sleep was 10. And then Dream Drop Distance was 12.
Very good game.
Hearts X was 12. Unchained X on iOS came out in 15. And then 3 just came out.
So how many games are there total?
So with that, it looks like there might be a couple other things there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Good Lord.
As well as a couple little other side ones that aren't really considered full games. And, of course, the remix stuff they had done to kind of bring things together as different groups of the games together.
As well, which is like a mini movie
2.5, 2.8. 2.8 has clips of Dream Drop Distance, as well as some of, X Black Cover and Hearts X, it looks like, in there. So pieces and bits between them.
Sure.
So yeah, that's the timeline. So they had a couple years between 1 and 2, 3 years there before in development.
Yeah.
Like you said, it had to have been in development.
Yeah. Say the same development time that 2 had, 3 years or so. We'll say that same development time was had for Kingdom Hearts 1. Then we're talking, 1998, 99 when this starts.
Yeah, the sensibilities of what was being done in games at that point.
Exactly. What we thought about what should a video game should be, or what should be in a video game in that time, is very different from what we think now.
Yes.
It's just to say that it's a product of its time, and that's not a bad thing.
Oh no,
it's just what it is.
Well, and that's why I give it credit for being one of the first of its kind at its time. It did pioneer a lot.
Precisely, it did all of these things that nobody had done before, and it was incredible in the time, and it's still definitely worth going back and playing without a doubt.
I will say Kingdom Hearts 1 takes from a lot of elements as other PlayStation 2 games. Like I remember Jack and Daxter having some platforming elements, especially the first game. The second game, not so much.
Although I'd say it was cleaner, but yes.
I would agree. It was
definitely
seemed much cleaner.
Yeah.
Well, again, and platforming was done like that at the time.
Right. Yes. And I thought that was kind of cool. Like when you play the game, you kind of see the progression, you see the aging of gaming, like how it has evolved from like the best games of their time over that span.
With Kingdom Hearts 3, like it's
even more so.
It is now, I would say, even more so. Not very much different than what 1 and 2 were. Back in their time, in terms of combat and other things.
I disagree.
Okay, so this is where it's fun because we're actually almost up to our break. So that we can start transitioning over to start talking a little bit more specific about Kingdom Hearts 3.
Well,
because, like I said, I've watched through the video stuff, and we'll get more into the story elements at the second half here. Because I also, for me, I watched a little bit of the gameplay stuff, and I started watching, as a preview to what it is, I don't know how many game hours there are in 1 and 2 each. Like how long on average they take to play, especially main storyline versus completionist.
Okay.
But when I just loaded up the YouTube video that is all of the cutscenes and story element videos of Kingdom Hearts 3, and it queued up for 10.5 hours, I was like, well, I don't think I'm going to get fully caught up before we talk about this today.
Yeah, it's... Kingdom Hearts has always been kind of egregious with their cutscenes, but...
I feel like, in a way, Squeenix.
Squeenix in general.
Squeenie.
As Square Enix has matured, I feel like their love of storytelling through just straight video
just make a movie already.
Has gone with it.
For Pete's sake.
Yeah, make another movie like Advent Children, not like... Although I liked all the Final Fantasy movies. Even the spacey, non-weird one.
Yeah.
Or totally weird one. But, go ahead, let your team free and make a full-on movie, and we'll watch that. But in gameplay... There's limits, right?
Yeah.
I've heard too many games had actually more than just Kingdom Hearts recently where get your popcorn and your drink out because we're going to start this game, but we're not going to start this game.
Yeah.
We have some expose first.
Yeah.
And on that note, we will come back after the break. I'm going to play a quick OC remix song that is... it's from, Suspirio? Kingdom Hearts Trinity, an OC remix.
Okay.
During the break here, so we'll be back in just about 3.5 minutes. So go take your break as needed, refresh your drinks and such, and we will see you after this. So you're listening to Show X on VtWProductions.com, and we will be back after this break.
Woohoo. Send in your emails to showx@VtWProductions.com. You're listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. Yes, always good to find music that hits in with what we're talking about during the mixes. Thank you, OC Remix, for having so much talent out there. That is appreciated. So, now, and I'm trying to think, we're going to initially start talking a lot more Kingdom Hearts 3 and tying it back to everything we've been discussing so far in the show today. About how Squeenix has put out the Kingdom Hearts games and the nostalgia available and the storyline being told and things like that. Now we're going to open it up. So, if you have not played and are looking to still experience Kingdom Hearts 3 fresh and new and only for yourself, feel free to take this opportunity to back away. Now, I may try to do this kind of real time where we'll start talking, and there may not be a lot of true spoilers right away. But as they come up, I will try to make sure the spoiler banner is on. But because initially as we start talking gameplay and mechanics like that specific to Kingdom Hearts 3, I think we'll be fine when it comes to those kind of things. But I'm curious, because we've talked about how time has been represented with Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and how gaming has progressed and matured. How has it continued into 3? Did we continue to mature?
Oh, man.
I would say unequivocally yes.
Okay.
Some things, in some ways not, but in a lot of ways it definitely has, and it definitely borrowed from some of the earlier side titles. I would say in particular Birth by Sleep.
Yes.
Okay.
It borrowed from pretty heavily, which I appreciate because I enjoy Birth by Sleep's combat system significantly more than I did one's combat system.
Okay, so on that note, just by itself, what would you describe as probably the main things that are different from 1 and 2 that is a carryover from that or unique to 3 that is different from what people experience in 1 and 2?
So with 1 and 2, we'll say things like the way you chain combos, for instance, are...
I just button mash and make sure I'm facing the character and target lock them.
Which was sometimes even difficult to do that, to target who you wanted. And
No, constantly hitting that target lock button nope, not you, nope, not you.
Exactly.
I just want to get that one healing
Cycling
guy.
constantly through the enemies until you get to the one, and then you went too far, you got to go back around.
Or blindly let me not lock anybody right now so I can just mash.
Yeah. And that's not so much the case in 3, where combos... There are, for one thing, more combos. Okay. There are more what you might call, I don't know, power moves or cutscene moves, basically, where you lose control of the character and they just do a flashy attack.
Okay, gotcha.
There's a lot more of that, which is something that is more common now to hack and slash type games. Where you hit them enough, you get to build up, and you get to use your super special attack.
Yeah, well, It's almost a carryover from what they started doing in the Street Fighter games and things like that, where you can get to your ultra combo things, unlike the originals where you had to input every single combo hit and just link them. These are the I now have my rage meter or something.
Exactly. That is
now do.
Exactly. That is significantly more prevalent than it was in the previous games.
I would say too much, honestly.
Well, I was going to say, because
I would say so too.
I see advantages to that mechanism versus not, because there's a skill aspect of being able to properly hit chains and combos and know that I can jump from this character to that character. That is, in a lot of games that I love, it's ones that you could learn that weren't necessarily built in as a core mechanic.
Yeah.
Things that you just could find out you could do.
Yeah.
That always made me feel like, look what I just did. I hit all those guys and never touched the ground twice.
Right.
And then
I actually try to do that.
Well, and I love games that have kind of that mechanic with a aerial juggle or aerial kind of combo back and forth versus I have specialized in aerial combat. I hit one button and now I hit 8 guys. What is it, Dante's Inferno type of gameplay or something where you just naturally link everything, stuff like that. So it's because I'm curious because you both seem to feel like it's a bit much.
It is. This is my opinion on the combat because this is my biggest issue with the game, and I thought it was visually stunning, and I love Disney
pretty
movies.
game.
It's beautiful, and the music, the story, the characters, the voice acting.
Just
like,
from the video I've watched a little bit, it's so polished by comparison to 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm watching, it's weird to see for me a little bit Disney characters in fully high definition CG rendered characters.
Yeah.
I was commenting how just seeing Alice in Wonderland characters in 1 in 3D was novel.
Yeah.
But it was still very polygonal and, and in at least 1, I don't know in 2, the animation was, polygon with mouth moving.
Oh, I hate that part. That's
over flat
They got rid of that entirely in Kingdom Hearts 3, so...
Well, 3, it's just fully rendered,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, it is. Sometimes it wouldn't be, right? Sometimes it'd be just a flat texture, but sometimes it'd be fully
Yeah,
modeled.
they kind of back and forth.
Yeah, it
well,
was
voice
a little
versus
weird.
just bubbles. And
Yeah.
Where the little bits of video I've seen, I'm like, oh, that's pretty. Like, prettier than a movie?
Yeah,
What?
it
And
is
that's game?
extremely
What?
very, very beautiful game.
So, yeah, I definitely have seen that for 3.
So, this is my issue. You just spam X. And you just spam and spam and spam. The enemies don't have strategy anymore. The main bosses and stuff.
Are we talking about 3 or
Yes.
all the games in particular?
I'm
'Cause
talking about 3. No,
Well-
there is strategy,
well, so
especially
again-
in the bigger bosses in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2.
Based on the way we play, beating your head against works in 1 and 2, but it may be take a long time and painful.
Way longer.
Versus...
But you can do it in 3, and it won't take as long.
That's
at
the
all.
key.
No, and
Where it
it's-
sounds like 3, it's encouraged, if not
It
like
is.
the
Oh
main
my
game is
God.
always mechanic.
It is encouraged because what you're doing is you're mashing X to get to then tap triangle to use your super special.
You're building combat thing so I can just hit the button to do the
That's-
thing.
Yeah,
that is what it is
You
now.
occasionally press triangle, and then there are special like power-up moves that have a cinematic to them, which get very annoying, especially in endgame when you just want to be done with it. But they don't allow you to choose which special power-ups to use with triangle. They have the attractions that have they basically take form of like the Disneyland and Disney World attractions. Like you have the spinning teacups.
So
and you
as we're
have
talking about this, I'm
blasters.
playing a video for everyone in the back that's talking about just some of the things in 3 about the fighting gameplay. So it's
Yes.
going to show some of that. It's funny because I watched this ahead of time, and this is from IGN's video if you actually want to go and listen to it.
Yeah.
But I did see they talk about literally the rides from Disneyland. So they had the
Big Thunder Mountain
carousel,
Railroad. They have the
Thunder
carousel.
Mountain. They had whichever water ride.
They have the
They
Splash
show,
Run. Splash Run's
um,
the name of the thing.
And like I'm seeing other things in the gameplay. They show like wall running and stuff. I don't know if that was at all in
no,
2.
not at all.
So
But-
the worlds were so small in 1 and 2, there wasn't really room to do that kind of thing. I'll
Yeah.
credit them for fleshing out things a lot more. Obviously, the hardware is so much stronger now. We can make these huge, vibrant, beautiful worlds.
Yes.
Yes.
And they have made things much more vertical and open and wide.
But that's what I like about that part of combat, which is really cool. It's not just on the ground anymore. It's on the
Lot
side of
more
walls. It's in
aerial
the
and lot
air.
more- oh, okay.
It's along railways and different like road rails and things. Like you can literally ride on a rail and shoot your Keyblade gun. Like it's crazy
See, and
stuff.
that was one of
not.
the things when they showed the gun, which apparently did also come from the other one.
It came from Kingdom Hearts 2 when they had a drive. There's a drive form you can get with that
Oh, okay.
has
It's showing it now,
it's a
actually.
blue
Yeah,
drive
the-
form, that you can use to shoot your Keyblade, which
because they were talking about that and the ability to do lock-ons. Here's where they're
lock on,
they were I know at some point because they're talking about Keyblade transformations.
Yes.
That at least this one allows you to do some things that. But
their
they're gonna
blaster car is
show-
my favorite.
They're going to show the one that is the big, and I think I could probably jump to it.
So
The like boss fight ones or something that you just hit it and it just goes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's a couple of those where it's just like you hit the button and then you do this big splashy just.
Yeah.
attack.
Twin Yo-Yos is the name of that power up with the yo-yo. That's a Monster Inc.
Okay, yeah, I
Keyblade
saw it
one.
because it had like the gears.
Yeah,
looking
there's the
like
pirate ship, which is just I think is my least favorite attraction to use. It's not very good, but the Big Thunder is pretty decent. And you can't use all the attractions, like the attractions that are
Well, they
triggered
said
and
that
stuff.
you don't get to choose; that it's area specific.
It's area specific. Yeah, absolutely,
and so I can see where that would be a challenge.
definitely.
It also, what it does is it ends up, I think, sometimes overusing certain ones. Because some you'll see a lot and others you'll see very rarely.
So the attractions, so that power up move in the same queue as the attraction power-ups, you also have your Keyblade transformations. You also have your special moves with your side characters.
your
You also have your
links and
special
stuff
moves,
like that, yeah.
with Donald and Goofy, right? But they come in order as you trigger them. So the one that you have soonest, each of them have different timers too. So the one that you really want to use, you have to go through your queue and use the ones that are in your order first to get to that one.
You don't get to
or
choose.
it'll run out of time and then you don't get it.
Yeah.
What?
It's you.
Whoa.
Yeah,
whoa.
that part really pisses me off because there are so many great power-ups to use, especially with Donald. He has this one like knockout move where you can throw him in the air and he does a bash move like on the ground against enemies, and it's fantastic to use, especially when there's a bunch of little guys because it'll knock them all out.
Because I saw a
super
similar
quick.
one with like Goofy with the shield, something power up and he comes down this big area of
Yeah,
effect, like
that's it.
pound
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, or something where I saw between them. I mean, do they at least have the ability to customize like they do in the first one and such, where you can tell like which things, how you want characters to perform, or where you want your spells, those kind of shortkeys? They don't do that.
Not
in
really.
3?
Not for the special moves, no. But you can choose. You can shortcut like which spells are in your queue and stuff. And
So
you
it's
can,
still that level, but it
Yeah.
sounds like they've added all of these very visual things.
They kind of just throw it at you,
context.
and it's very overwhelming.
Yeah, the game basically decides for you. You know what these power attacks and
then
flashy things.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about, because I think this is really important, is earlier I mentioned something about kind of skill tree-esque where you can choose which path you want to take for combos. Like if you want to do like block and then counter attacks versus aerial, you have so many ability points
that you get to just do them all.
Yes,
You don't have to specialize.
and no, and
there's no real picking and choosing.
there's
You
no real
just-
picking and choosing, and there's no like skill tree aspect to it. You just spam X, and
I was
that
going to say, because
sucks.
that's something that, I mean, okay, do I want to call that out as a generational thing? Because it is something that in one, I looked at and I prioritized which of these abilities do I prefer for each character, right? And that was another one of those learning moments where I was like, oh, they have these ability points you can use. Huh. Well, that makes you do a lot more than them just stand there running around.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun thing to learn. But yeah, that I could prioritize, like, because I was waiting for the big one I wanted, which is I think Goofy got a magnet ability to allow you to pick up the
treasure magnet.
Yeah, everything around you a little closer. I was like, I've been dying for this because running around picking up monies,
Lucky
it's just
Strike
annoying,
is my favorite,
right?
yeah.
And as well as the spam twice as much, right? So now it's just pinatas and they all come.
Yeah.
And I'm so much happier with that because I covet all of the green until I got the cure, right? Until I finally got an ability to cure. And so it makes sense because I gave up like one of the critical damage ones or something like that in order to, I think these are the ones I care to use.
Yeah.
And even for me on Sora, it's like, I don't really care about that one. I did do like the aerial, both Goofy and me, because there's so many damn aerial characters in 1 and 2.
Yeah.
To actually get up to that, it allows you to do the kind of uppercut punch to them. And admittedly, they, in 1 and 2, I think they still had it where those define what your X does and how it does it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But you did have some customizability that said, this is how I'm going to play this one. Like, I am keeping Sora's dash slide thing all day long, because the ability to just lock a character and slide over them to
That's
them
the
doing an
best thing
attack,
ever. That's the first one. I
cover
got.
distance,
Yes.
like, thank you, right? That I am keeping that on. And so, but having to choose. And I think that's an important aspect to any game, because that way you feel like you can actually make it your way of playing.
Yes.
That's only really in 3 at least. That seems like it's only the case maybe very early on, and then after that it's
just a free for all.
You get ability points in spades, and
In spades.
suddenly.
But you also get a lot more equipment in the game too.
Yeah, that's true.
Equipment meaning not just your potions and things like that, items, but equipment how?
No, you get like accessories, you get jewelry and stuff you can
so
wear.
not
to, like,
just
help
like
you
the
power
3 slots
rings
you
and-
get in
For
one?
the-
Oh no, you
for the
get tons of stuff.
Uninitiated, what do these things do precisely?
So they can give you different abilities and stuff. Like you have like a fire ring that gives you like fire resistance, or maybe it can give you strength points, magic points, as well as a ton of
the little
ability
bonuses
points.
and stuff that'll help
but,
open up.
But they just hand them out like candy, and and it's just unbelievable. I mean, early on in the game, I think I had an extra 30 ability points, and I had everything equipped.
Oh, man.
But I just had 30 left over, and it wasn't until about in the midway point that I was like, I'm kind of running out. Oh wait, I haven't leveled up my equipment yet. Let me go look.
Oh, so you can
that I'll-
actually...
No, you don't level it up, but I'm saying
you
like
can replace it with better
you can
things.
replace it with better things, and then I'm like, oh, there's my extra 20 ability points again. Great. What do I use it for? Nothing.
Aye.
Okay. Like, very silly. Synthesis is still important in the game. You can like level up your keyblades and stuff.
Yeah, which
is,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Especially because those are things they don't present as often, and keyblades are the key component of the game.
yes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get into Ultima Weapon eventually. But the other thing about combat I wanted to mention is that there's not a lot of unique enemies, I think, in Kingdom Hearts 3, where there was a lot more, and maybe I just haven't explored enough because I got sick. I got extremely angry at the end of the game, and I haven't touched it since I beat it. I put in 40 hours and 7 minutes into Kingdom Hearts 3 just to like get as much done as I thought. I'm like, okay, all right, it's going to be a big ending. It's going to take me a long time. Let me grind. Let me get a couple extra points. No, I beat the final boss in one try on normal, which I will admit a lot of people say, well, you didn't do it on proud mode. Well, if proud mode was the intended way to play the game, why didn't they just make that normal?
So thank you for that.
I told her that.
Oh, yes. No. Thank you for that.
No, you weren't the only one, because somebody was like, well, I beat it on proud mode. I'm like, then, okay. And how many times did it take you?
I appreciate that in a way, because I am disappointed in any game, and the one that I always bring up is Diablo, when they present or limit the difficulty you can put a game on and such, where normal mode is baby mode.
Yes.
And then their hard mode is like what you really should play at. Because like on FPSs, I will usually, especially ones that have storylines, I will play with the hardest mode because I know it's an 8-hour experience. If I don't, it's a 4. Whereas with this kind of game, I put on normal because I know it's such a long experience. But I'm still, like on Kingdom Hearts 1, struggling through boss battles on normal mode.
Yeah.
And so it is like, I think, an appropriate level of difficulty for someone who hasn't really played through the games.
So I have a friend of mine, I can't remember who it is that told me. It's somebody in our gamer chat. Their wife beat the game in 17 hours without unlocking the extra ending and had no problem doing it.
Interesting.
This is my issue with Kingdom Hearts 3. It is stupid easy. And that frustrates me so much.
Well, and that's where I was wondering if, like I was alluding to, a generational thing, not claiming a single one, but just as some games have modernized, and especially if you get to the games now that you can save anywhere and stuff like that, if some of that difficulty that existed is gone. And the challenge I have is, God, this is such a, outside of Kingdom Hearts specifically, but gamer culture or gamer experience kind of discussion, it seems like too many games have gotten too handhold, simple, singular line to go down way of beating the game, where I know for a while, and this isn't new, that I think developers were afraid that players didn't have the, what do I want to say, the focus or the whatever to really dig into games. And that bothers me a little bit because Kingdom Hearts is specifically a game that comes from those generations of people who played them before. I don't believe it was truly marketed for new gamers. It seemed like it came out saying, hey, remember that game that we said,
sure,
you guys love and you've been playing all these games of, and we said, this is going to trigger you, that we said we were going to like finalize the whole storyline in Kingdom Hearts 3 and stuff like that. This one's for you, right? And so you'd think that it would be built with the game mechanics to cater to people who've been playing these games.
Who remember that it was a strategy, and who remember having to grind to get to level 80 in order to defeat the final boss in the second game and things like that, because that was my experience playing it. Like, it was a struggle, but I remember staying up late on nights. And my parents loved and embraced that I was a video gamer instead of going out and getting into trouble when I was a kid or sneaking out of the house and doing dumb stuff. My mom and dad loved that I was a gamer.
They knew where you were.
For that reason, exactly. They knew where I was on a Saturday night. And I just have so much anguish towards Kingdom Hearts 3 because they took that. They took that away, and that was my favorite part of it because I felt like a real gamer. I felt like I was...
You had to actually cut your teeth on some difficult aspects of the game to be able to complete it.
Now, yes, and so when I talk about unique enemies, obviously in Kingdom Hearts 1, when you played Deep Jungle, you remember the little white mushroom guys with the red hats.
Yes,
you have to cast magic spells.
I still don't know what to do with them.
I can help you with that later if you want.
I know it's teased at me. I think they're the ones you have to cast stop on or something. I don't know.
When I was playing through the game, and I revisited the worlds a lot, like you can ask John, we went and tried to get all the hidden Mickeys so I could unlock the secret ending. Like, we went ham on it. And there weren't really any unique enemies except for the Fantastic Seven.
Okay.
Which those of you that have played the game kind of know who I'm talking about. They're super cute little mini games you can play. They're all based off of different fruits, and with the cooking mini game, you can get ingredients from them. But there's certain points that you need to collect. Like, there's a certain limit on points. I think the max is like 25,000, and you have to get it on all 7 of those in order to get an Orichalcum Plus, which is used to make Ultima Weapon.
Okay.
Which I did not get because you don't need Ultima Weapon to beat the final boss. You can just do it in one try on normal mode. So I stopped. As soon as I beat the final boss, I just looked at John and I went, seriously? For hours. In Kingdom Hearts 2, for hours. that spaceship, when you're on it with Riku and you are flying through the ether trying to fight this like weird dragon robot dude, and you're just like, what is going on? And it's just chaos and madness. And then when you get to this final area into a world that's so beautiful you can't even touch, which is Scala Calum or Scala Alcalum or whatever. Calum, it's the final world in Kingdom Hearts,
Right.
Yeah. Like no unique enemies really to like equip you or to level you up or to get ultimate weapon, you know. And I remember in the first game, so you haven't gotten there yet, in order to get certain items in the first game, you have to visit this creature called like a rare something, like a rare Arcanist or some weird guy. Basically, you have to cast Stop on him and then hit him 100 times in like 10 seconds.
Ooh.
But in order to do this, you need the spell Stopga. So when you go into trying to defeat these guys, you have Stopra. But in order to get Stopga, you have to defeat a special boss in Neverland that requires you to cast certain spells, or else he removes all of your extra players from the game. He will literally freeze them, and you have to beat the clock and stop it, or he'll take away your extra character. And he is hard. And I have tried, even in Kingdom Hearts 1, and I don't consider myself like an expert in Kingdom Hearts 1, but I'm pretty damn good at it. It's awful trying to fight him. It is the worst. I hate that extra boss. And I tried to fight Sephiroth twice, and I will never do that again in Kingdom Hearts 2. Just these crazy strategies. It's a stretch to get Ultima in 1 and 2.
Well,
in Kingdom Hearts 3, not.
See, and I was curious because one of the things that for those type of games, my experience being more the Final Fantasies, because I played all the way from 7 through, I started 10-2 like twice and or 8 times and said no, and then never went past that. But it was like the ultimate weapons and stuff like that. The various ones you'd go that were kind of side, by choice. You didn't have to go after them.
Yeah.
And any of my friends from back in the old days who would tell me about 7 and stuff, saying that they always played the game min-max, where they would go get Circle the Round, or wait, what was it, Knights of the Round and Triple Cast or something like that, where whenever they'd play it, they'd do the thing where they'd cast all their stuff and then sit back for 10 minutes as battle just kept, like, the spell kept casting or something to beat things. And I never did that. I would beat my head against certain ones and get some, but then if it got too difficult, I'd be like, nah, I'm bored with this, we're storyline again, and just keep going. And meaning that it would be tough, because I went through and beat those games without maxing everything. So, like, I'm the kind of guy who wouldn't go get Ultima, right? Go get the main weapons, but I will find a way to beat the damn game without it. It may take me twice as long, and I may have to use every damn potion and thing out there, but I'll do it my way, right? And I'll beat the game. And so it's unfortunate to me to hear that I could basically trip through Kingdom Hearts 3. And
I was expecting so much strategy. I remember I had so much anxiety going into these final battles, especially with the Organization 13 members, because that is pivotal in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah.
They all have a different fighting style.
They are the main storyline.
Yes, and they are a pain in the ass. It is brutal. Some of it is just nasty, and you're like, what the heck?
Maybe the game is sort of a casualty of its own, like, hype.
Okay.
It is.
Yes.
It had just been so long since between 2 and then this one, that now this game wasn't as like niche as it was before. This wasn't just for like, if you're a fan of Disney or Final Fantasy, we got a game for you. It was bigger than that now.
Okay.
And so now you had people coming who had potentially never played any of the other games, and
there's truth to that.
Yeah, and maybe they wanted to kind of bring in those people and make sure that they had a good time and it wasn't too hard for them, and because they didn't have any investment in the series, and maybe they're afraid of scaring those people off.
And that's part of where I went with the generational thing. Not necessarily that it is actually a generation of gamers, but it is that people are trying to make things so mass market and sell so many copies that they're so worried about that they're not really worried about the integrity of the game, right? That it's we're not, because they may not have another one in the works in the near future, and so they don't really care that people are going to be waiting for it. They maybe want to make all their money in this shot. Who knows? But I've seen that across a lot of different things, because I know there's still an appetite for difficult gameplay.
Yeah, Dark Souls is proof of that.
Dark Souls, Super Meat Boy, all these other games that have come out that are like, you like yourself?
Celeste.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Things that are truly painful. But
But even Breath of the Wild was like almost Dark Souls level until you get to a certain point when you finally get, like, for us, we tried to get all of the hearts that we needed in order to get the Master Sword, and then we played through the main storyline, because we read and learned that, like, it is not a walk in the park. But that's what I like. That's why I
just
think
wanted
Breath of the
Master
Wild.
Sword really bad.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it
Well-
kind of feels like a part of the series that you should have.
Yeah.
Right,
but-
I was like, I didn't felt naked without it.
But,
I really
but
had to
Breath
have
of
it.
the Wild to me is the best game. I think it's the best game I've ever played because it has everything. It is everything. It is perfect to me. It is absolutely stunning. I don't like the ending of Breath of the Wild. But that's because I
You had a
ship
problem with
characters.
endings.
I do because I just want to see the two lovebirds kiss at every ending and it just be wonderful and like
now, come on.
they go
Did
happily
a
ever after.
single Zelda game ever?
I know,
present
but I just
any
want it.
Characters
Just let
actually
just
happening
let
yet?
me
No, so
live. Just let me.
see, I have a whole side discussion when it comes to that level, because if it's not necessary for the story, why would you have it?
You will hear
We-
why.
I talked
even
about
for
this-
Kingdom Hearts 3 that I was just like, oh, the ending.
Because I
mother.
talked about this when it came to discussions about Overwatch and Apex Legends now when it comes to certain character backgrounds and stuff like that. If it's not necessary for the gameplay, don't do it.
Yeah.
It alienates players. Versus me being able to play a character regardless of what I think about the world and my views of it and put myself in that role. Which is why I think Nintendo's been so brilliant about it with Link and Zelda Forever.
Yes.
Agreed.
Because it means anybody can play a little short, white, elfy looking thing
Yeah.
and still enjoy it as though that's somehow their story.
Now you mentioned earlier about we're getting a bunch of stuff in the chat and the game.
Well, no, we do have people coming through talking about, like, as most recent copy saying Breath of the
That's
Wild,
awesome.
no pants. But even there, like, St. Uther coming in there talking about memories from Kingdom Hearts 1 grinding to beat Sephiroth.
Oh, that is
and even
such a
harder
tough boss.
in 2.
And I will agree with that. I did not try to play Sephiroth in the first game because to me, I didn't like Olympus Coliseum. I don't like just like the battle royale, like the grinding PvE.
I jumped in it for a moment.
I don't
and
like
I was
it.
like, oh, this is cool. And
I don't care.
The only reason I was going to, because I know it's a whole side, doesn't need to be done to finish
Mm-hmm.
the story. But I was
Right.
tempted because I saw the loot table from it saying, oh, I can get
Oh,
Goofy a
it's
better
juice,
shield. I can
yeah.
get that. I was like, okay, so there's actually a reason to do
Yeah,
this.
definitely.
And so because they have legitimate upgrades there, it's worth the time.
Yeah, and
So I played through it once, lost it. All right, back to story.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because I think one of the viewers in this room, who is it, say another. If you could, and I don't know if you're listening to me right now doing this, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you gain experience from fighting in the Colosseum. I don't know so much about the second game because I know in the Underdrome you don't actually gain experience fighting in that, but I believe in Olympus Coliseum when you defeat certain enemies, you do gain experience, which can be really handy, especially when you're going into endgame. So I just want to throw that out there. Earlier, when you were talking about content of the game, Kingdom Hearts 3 has way too many mini games, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Way too many. Disgusting amount
But
of
they're,
mini games.
they're all optional, for the most part. Are we talking about the? What do you mean by minigame? Let's say that.
Like different little game mechanics they throw in, or like legitimately this is its own completely standalone experience that you go just for this thing, like the little bomb puzzle you might do in a thing to release something else, or
Yeah.
I'm talking like the Fantastic Seven, 100 Acre Wood, the Ratatouille mini games. Oh God, I can't remember. There's another
like
one.
just so many different little side elements that you could just chase by themselves.
It just feels like they replaced actual game content with mini games. Some stuff that doesn't even matter. Some stuff that's not even like prevalent. But if you're a completionist like me and you want the actual like real game experience, you have to play hours of these mini games. You know how many times it took me to crack a damn egg in Ratatouille? A lot. It was awful. He sat there and watched me fail at it like 5 or 8 times. And I just told him earlier than that, I swear to you, I just cracked this egg in first try and it was no problem. No. Just silly.
Yeah.
It's just annoying. And don't get me wrong, I'm a rat lover. We have a rat at home. I love rats. I love Ratatouille. It's a great story. And I love
Ratatouille's
it.
wonderful.
It's super cute. And I can't believe that they included that in the game. And I was so overwhelmed to hear
I
this.
love that Kingdom Hearts 3 has Pixar content through it.
Oh yeah,
Thank
that's
God.
that's
Yeah, that was
but that's
great.
the other thing. They do have like sort of these like little trials and these like little mini game things that you have to like hash through. One thing about the Toy Story world that I hate is when you have to jump inside of the Gygas, because the Gygas guys are really hard to fight and you have to defeat one and grind through that, or pick up one of the ones on the side of the wall and then use the Gygas guys to defeat the other Gygas guys. And that is really tiresome. I'll just say that much. That part kind of sucks. What
But the
was-
worlds are excellent in the sense that, we get Pixar content we never had before. The worlds are significantly larger, and you feel they're significantly more alive. If it's a world like Twilight Town,
Okay.
has more NPCs and people in it. It
Yeah.
feels like an actual town that's lived in, which is nice. all the voice acting is excellent.
That's good to hear.
There's some things you wouldn't, voice actors you wouldn't
expect.
And other ones you...
Is it ones that like you would know because the character is who they voice, or just other ones they bring in that are...
A little bit of both.
Because I do love that they have such a well to draw from of potential characters and storylines, and it sounds like they did tap into it some, at least to expose or have certain characters show up. And whether they really went to depth with them, it doesn't sound like that might have happened, but that they at least show up and do cameos and things like that.
Now, who is it that plays Woody? Is it Tom Hanks's brother?
It is Tom Hanks... Not Tom Hanks. Yeah, it is Tom Hanks' brother, who
Okay.
sounds remarkably
It's
like Tom Hanks.
disgusting like Tom Hanks. It's
come on.
awesome.
There are some like that, because you can't
Yeah.
do Genie anymore, right? I mean, there's
Right. Yeah.
certain
Yeah,
characters you
but
just...
even John Goodman and Billy Crystal came back to be Mike and
Oh,
Sully.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and
Okay,
Kristen
that's really
Bell
cool.
was
They
Anna,
did that.
and
Yeah, with the
Mandy
guy.
Moore
so they
was
actually
Rapunzel.
pulled back a lot of the real voice actors that did it
Yeah.
in the movies and such.
They did.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
really cool to hear.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I
You
mean,
can
this
tell
was a huge
they-
production. I mean,
Yeah, they did not skimp on the production value. It
Oh.
looks, it sounds incredible. It is a spectacle in every sense. But there are just a lot of nagging things, I think, mostly mechanic-wise and story-wise, that...
Well, and
detract.
kind of to speak a little bit to what Copy's saying in
Yeah,
the chat
I'm
about...
seeing you, Copy.
Well, so she never really jumped into the Kingdom Hearts thing, but I also blame you, Copy, for not being a Disney lover. So there's that. But with that, I mean, it's the point of this episode of the show, of us talking about this, wasn't to have a love fest for Kingdom Hearts.
No.
It was to have an honest discussion about the series, in the sense that there are things I love about it. The nostalgia factor, the world exploring, the kind of seeing characters in a way that I haven't gotten to experience through other things. But at the same time, I'm never going to tell you that these games are perfect. And I obviously did not fall into the fandom line of it, where that I have already crushed 1 and 2 and replayed them a dozen times like others in the room. And so you're not going to get from me some false, like, oh no, I can't believe you didn't play this game. I mean, specifically, Ken's not on because he didn't play these games and stuff like that. And so
Copy out there for you. I love Kingdom Hearts so much, and it's because it grew up with me. I met my best friend in the whole wide world through Kingdom Hearts. When he was 7 and I was 14, I taught him how to play video games while playing Kingdom Hearts 1 and
Nice.
2. And I went to go see his basic training graduation in 2017, and he is so remarkably one of the best friends I've ever had. And I love him so much. Like, to us and to the fans, there's such a beautiful part of that, because there are a lot of people in my generation that grew up playing these games and remember actually feeling like a real gamer, somebody who's like an elitist, like somebody who's like a pro. Like, I memorized this game.
this was one of your games for that
Yes,
type of
and
experience.
it gave me the gateway I needed to continue to playing other RPGs and action games and platformers and stuff, and it gave me kind of the springboard I needed to learn from my mistakes in the past to be a better gamer. It is a great story. And Copy, I don't know if you are thinking about playing them. I know that this is kind of a turnoff for you, because I don't want to get blinded by the hype. I have a tendency to do that, where I get so caught up in a fandom that I'm
Yep.
like, I overlook all the bad details of the game. After I take some time to really think about it, this game is not that great to me.
And that's the key. And now you're not talking the series.
No, not at
You're
all.
specifically, and this is where this discussion was going to come from, is specifically criticizing Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
And part of that is for all these reasons, because so many fans did love 1 and 2, as well as all the side ones, that there's a lot of hype and expectation. Not just hype in the sense I'm excited for the game, but expectation for that same level of quality gaming experience
Yes.
that you want to catch that you had through these other games. It's in the same way I would say any of these games that we love. When, StarCraft 2 came out and everybody was like, oh, another StarCraft, and I was like, meh, right, in the end. And even the initial launch of Diablo 3 was garbage.
Yeah.
Until they until they stole everything from all the other, action RPG games out there, Torchlight, and finally brought it into the game and got rid of the real world auction house, things like that, before you finally got the game that it became worthwhile. And so that's part of the challenge, is when you have a series that people love and adore, the potential for failure is high.
Yes.
And it sounds like this one maybe didn't fail, but at the same time didn't overwhelm or didn't really hit the mark of what people were hoping.
Well, there was so many groups of people that I think they had to try and please, which from the hardcore fans that have been playing the game since they were children, to the people nowadays who all they've done is hear about, oh my god, Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming. You guys, if you've never played this before, you're going to love it. And they're like, oh, wow. So all these different subsections of the populace of gamers that suddenly are brought in here, that there was no way in reality that I think they were going to be able to make a game for all of
that
those
would have
people.
actually met that expectation.
Yeah.
See, I'm curious about that because games have.
Some games have, but
Breath
I think
of the Wild did, didn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Right?
think that
I mean, I've run into ones that I'm like, this is legit amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild is
I believe-
unbelievable.
I think that it can happen, but I think it's just.
It's a tough mark.
It is a very
come on.
tough mark.
And fandom does not help.
No.
Because when
Oh,
you have
no.
love and you have desire for something to happen
Yeah.
and it doesn't quite hit it, you're going to be even more critical.
Yours-
It's what I say about movies all the time. There's so many, like Ready Player One. I love this IP so well that when you get the experience of what could have been, and you know what could have been, and you get what you get, and you're like,
Yep.
that's it? That's it?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what hurts more, right?
So I will say, as somebody who does not have a stake in Kingdom Hearts, I am not as down on Kingdom Hearts 3 as Haley is here. I think it was probably, or arguably, in my opinion, and I'm going to get hate for this probably from you, probably the best game since the first one, in terms of the story.
The
Story is garbage.
I see the disappointment.
Get the
All right,
heck out
so
of here.
as we get into story elements, because we're in the last 20 minutes of the show.
Settle in,
For those who don't know,
in.
and this will probably be somewhat rapid fire, the overall story of the Kingdom Hearts line, and yes, this is spoilers to come, essentially follows that evil in the world is drawn out and become this thing of the Heartless that are being manifest, but the real story behind it is, was it Axum? Or I forget his name. Ansem.
Yeah.
One of the main characters, and it goes back as you go back in time, forward in time stuff, that you had this main hero of the world that kind of ran everything, disappeared, left it in charge of all his underlings to kind of keep going things going, but in reality that was kind of what made things fall apart, and people rebelled, and evil came into the world, all this stuff happens.
Yeah.
Through that, short recap of everything prior to Kingdom Hearts, like,
It's a little
And
bit.
now you guys know you can go play.
yeah.
It's a little bit more complicated.
Well,
than
it's
that.
way more complicated,
It's an
and that's where it
understatement.
gets into, even watching all the recaps, I can't keep up.
Yeah.
But left at the end of, essentially at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2 and going into this one and some of the other storylines, you had come to find out that it was all about pieces of heart and people kind of coming in and that you as the main character, Sora, were not meant to truly be the hero of the thing, that, or the Keyblade Master and such like that, that you had been touched accidentally by the previous Keyblade Master, or it was actually because you had a piece of one of them in your heart, which is why you were able to touch it and actually keep it. Again, watching all the various storylines that kind of lead up to it. Regardless of any of that, okay, from the story leading into Kingdom Hearts 3, what were probably the biggest questions you had going into this game?
Some of the biggest questions I had.
Because I cannot recap the whole thing in like
So
2 minutes.
you're kind of wondering, what now? What is coming? What's to come? What is happening?
Because
at the end of Kingdom Hearts 2, you see the huge fight between Terra, Aqua, and Ventus versus Xehanort, who is the main bad guy, the
Yeah,
old guy who
Xehanort's
was
throughout.
Leonard Nimoy voice guy. He was all hunched over, and you know
Well,
he's
because
just bad because he's
the
got
whole
yellow eyes.
and
Yes,
the whole
may he rest in
aspect
peace.
of the 13, oh, is it 13
Yes.
initially? And all of them are like at the end of, not the first time through, but the second time through, are all aspects of him because he's trying to control the whole ability to affect everything,
Well,
he
wants to open up Kingdom Hearts, yeah,
open
and
up
then-
Kingdom
and flood the
Hearts
world
so
with
that they can
world with darkness, yeah.
control the world. That's the whole thing of Kingdom Hearts. Is actually, you'd think it'd be a positive thing, but it's an aspect that you can open up, bring together, and make evil.
Yeah.
Um,
So going into it at the end of the second game, and now keep in mind, guys, I have not played
all the side ones.
I have not played the games between 2 and 3.
Okay,
So
so because I know
in
you're
timeline
left.
scope.
Because I forget if going into 3 you finished the digital world that came out of, if that's already resolved, where digital was it digital Riku and goes back, or no, digital Sora basically goes back to go through all the storyline to recover the history that was lost when he was put in stasis.
Are you talking about Recoded? I believe that's that game.
Whichever one,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
like this whole digital experience that actually leads a lot of story elements into what's coming up in 3 and such. As
Yeah, but they don't
far
really.
as I can, like,
they didn't really give us the recap we needed going into 3. So when you hear about this world, you're like, what on earth? What the snick snack frick frack are you talking about? What the jank? What is this?
well, because the
So-
very beginning of 3 starts out, from what I've watched in the videos, is basically 2 characters playing chess.
Oh, that's Xehanort and Ericus when they
Okay,
were kids.
old versions of them. before they went into even themselves being keymasters and such, right?
Yes.
And so
Their
way
training.
back where it talks about the light and the dark and kind of just general things and
Yeah.
because again, I watched like the first half hour of cutscenes.
A lot of that does get addressed in Birth by Sleep, so you
Okay.
do see that. And Ericus is actually the trainer of Terra, Ventus, and Aqua.
Yes.
And Xehanort strikes him
Xehanort
down.
comes in because he sees the darkness that's apparent in Terra's heart and actually helps force Terra to not complete the trials to become a keymaster at that point to help corrupt because Aerith is
he wanted
actually
his
trying to
nobody.
live forever and therefore inhabit the body of others and get a vessel up. And
Yes.
throughout the series, you find out has kind of tried to set up certain people as the potential host.
Oh, definitely. He definitely grooms people to perform certain actions and stuff. So you do Riku's replica, his nobody that has like bad in him. The guy from the first game that's in that really cool, like weird, muscly looking blue and red suit, who just looks like a badass. He used my what?
Is his name Venitus?
No, that's not Vanitas. I'm talking about actual Riku, dude.
Okay,
like
sorry.
the actual Riku.
Well, that's the problem, right? Because it's the same characters depending on if they're a
nobody or
heartless or the original.
Yeah. Same characters.
Carry throughout the whole storyline.
Yes.
Different names.
Or the digital version.
Oh my god.
and that's part of the convolution of the story, right?
Yes.
They have all these elements going back and forth.
Yep.
It is.
It's
just
such a Squeenix game. The same as like when you're not really, when Cloud wasn't really the hero of Final Fantasy VII, but you don't realize that until you go through Advent Children. Like, what? Screw you in that BS timeline where all of a sudden you have this other pretty boy.
Yeah. So you can tell they like. So this is what leads me to believe that, in my opinion, I think I've seen this elsewhere on the internet and such, that Kingdom Hearts 1 was not intended to have any sequels. It was probably intended, it seems like to me, to be a standalone game.
Okay.
Because...
Well, I was going to say, because by the end of the first... And it seems like the true villains in the first one are the Disney villains.
Right.
At least playing through. And it's not until you have the context of everything else that you're kind of like, or
yeah,
there's a bigger story going on.
They didn't really matter. It was actually the organization the whole time.
And that's one of my problems with the plot line of how they present all the Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
Is that you, through gameplay, you're primarily playing through the villains and worlds of the Disney storyline.
Right.
And none of them matter. At some point, you kind of get carryover between Maleficent and Pete that kind of come in and out multiple times, and Hades in the second one and such.
Yeah.
And going into the third. But it's not... But they don't matter. None of them matter.
Yeah. It's only the organization really matters.
Yeah.
And, so you can tell they, like, when the later games, they had to go retcon things. Like, hey, the Disney villains weren't the real bad guys. It was all these shadowy figures in the background. Sora wasn't really the only Keyblade Master. He was one of, like...
Yeah. Well, and I mean, did they show that in the first one at all? Because when they show the Battle of the Keyblade Masters where there's, like, the whole graveyard of Keyblades,
or
was that in the first or at all? Or was that just second?
No, not at all
I don't think
mentioned
so.
in the first game.
Okay, because I
There's
know
no Keyblade War.
storyline, they talk about it, but...
Yeah.
In the first one, I don't think I've run into that at all.
And like in the first game, you were led to believe there was only one Keyblade,
Yep.
and it was
Yes.
Sora's, and but turns out there's a bajillion of them.
Well, that would explain why you get different versions and different keychains that allow you to do different things, because then it kind of becomes more apparent that there's multiple
See,
Keyblades.
I just thought those were like
and then you
transformations for his original Keyblade.
Well, no,
they're
you do
keychains.
equip them
Yeah,
as
you
a
equip
separate
them.
piece.
fair, that's fair.
But even then, in the storyline, it gets convoluted because it talks about when it first broke apart the actual Keyblade or whatever, the Master one or whatever, that it went into like 20 pieces. But then it seems like there's way more than that across the board. And so, again, all of that seems like... Did they just throw it out there?
That's kind of what I like about it, because when you're going in there and you're seeing it, you notice that Bad Riku in the first game has a Keyblade and he's a bad guy, so not all the Keyblades are good, and then you're just like, wait a minute, there's light and dark Keyblades? How many more are there?
So you can. So there are elements in the first game that they tease, like, and then I'm sure they took those things and ran with them for the later games. Like, okay, all right, now we can make a story, a more overarching story about this, going from here on out. And unfortunately, it seems like it's got them into trouble, because now things are extremely much more complicated than they were.
Oh, it's a hot mess.
It is a hot mess, and I'll give them credit. This is why I think that Kingdom Hearts 3's story is arguably the best since the first game.
As they tried to, like...
Because yes, they did probably the best job they could have done to get as many things back and make it all make some kind of sense. It's still a bit of a mess, but it's not as much of a mess as it was coming into the game.
Okay, so they tied some things up, but they maybe didn't resolve.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
There you go. That's the way to put it.
Let me
Please jump in, because
my God.
we are in the spoiler point, so you feel free to rant, rave, and give us what you really feel
go
about it.
ahead.
Because, so as we get towards what maybe the finale ended up being, did you feel like playing the game there, the story was at least coming together, making sense as you played?
No. No. What the hell? They addressed 4 princesses, and then they talked about... So
there's supposed to be 7, right?
Yeah,
7
no,
verse
that
7?
doesn't get addressed. They just
No?
drop that story. Yeah, there are 4 princesses in the game, right? So there's supposed to be Rapunzel, Elsa, Anna, who's a queen. By the way, Elsa is a queen. And then Kyrie. That's it. You don't hear about the other 7. You don't hear about what happens to the other 3. You just think about like protecting them, and then you never go back and revisit any of those worlds once you realize, oh, they're going after princesses again. That does not
I
come
thought
up
that was because
again.
they didn't care anymore. Like they had to do it.
Then why mention it at all?
Well, like the organization, like they failed in that the first time, so they
Yeah.
went to go like they had to figure out a
okay,
different way to do
So
that.
they figured out they're out of 4 princesses, and they're like, well, there's not any more. Yeah, screw that. We're not going to go for that anymore.
Well, because I
What?
thought there was some magic math that came out in one of them that about the 7 evil and initially the 4 good and something else, and tied that together was enough to
there's-
bring back Kingdom Hearts.
So there's 13 bad and 7 good.
Oh,
And
that's
so
what it
and then
was.
they talk about the 7. So there's like 7 like
13,
princesses
7,
of
okay.
heart, and then there's 7 because 7's the magic number, and so is 13. 7 guardians of light. So it's like they kind of like they kind of like tossed it under the rug, like don't worry about those princesses because we have another 7 here.
Which is so
And
weird
then-
too, because they like initiate so much in the game with the stained glass views of the various princesses and stuff like that, and kind of hinting at their importance.
And that's by the way, I really want that art in my baby room for my future baby. Like I really want to do. We've actually talked about
Heads up.
doing a Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, we've actually talked about doing a Kingdom Hearts themed baby room and
Oh,
having
so you're
those
going to set
glass
them off
pictures.
right in the sense that they're going to be heartless and
Just
gonna-
that it's just that the artwork and stuff is really beautiful, but we've actually talked about it, and I think it's just fabulous. But I love those stained glass pieces, and if I could find those in IRL,
they exist in various forms. They do.
anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't really
But it turns out they don't.
cover that anymore. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. And then at the end of the game, so in order to trigger Sora, Xehanort destroys Kyrie,
Ooh.
and she dies.
Dead.
Well, we don't know that.
Well, we don't know that.
See, there's always a well, maybe.
So then at the end of the
Squeenix
game, once you have this, and by the way, for me, I just want to throw this out there. The ending scene where Ericus and Xehanort reunite and they're like crying and hugging each other because it's like, so Ericus like appears in like a golden form, like his spirit.
Okay.
And he says goodbye to Terra, Ventus, and Aqua. And it's like really nice because it's like, it's Mark Hamill, who's the voice of
Mark Hamill
of
voices,
Ericus.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful, and he is just...
He is an amazing
And
voice actor,
Xehanort
so.
is just like, I'm so tired, I'm so weak, and Ericus is like, come on, old friend. And it's like he forgives him for like all of his bad
Well, because
past
they-
transgressions because he was corrupted.
They attempt to make out at the end that Xehanort
Wasn't
doing
truly evil,
He
but-
was
was
doing
doing a
all of
Thanos.
the. Well, yeah, he was doing all of the things he was doing because he
Good rec-
was under the impression that it was the only way to like really save everyone.
to really, yeah, because
Gotcha, that's
they would
yeah.
continue to fight. So if you cover the world in darkness and then they survive and revive themselves, and
Yeah.
the world will just go back to normal.
The
so
new
it's
world
like
that is built out of the darkness will be positive and
yeah,
balanced.
From the ashes kind of thing,
Yeah,
yeah.
so like, but
Interesting.
they don't reveal that until the very end, which you think they would just
So,
tell us and kind of give us a lead up,
the
so that way we
problem-
know that Xehanort's not really that
The
bad.
problem with that is they didn't do the Thanos thing in that they didn't make him a relatable villain in the sense that
Right.
you can actually get that timeline or the background. Because
Yeah.
at least from the get-go, while Thanos might be twisted, you know he's got a
You get
goal
it.
and is kind of solid in his view.
and you're like, damn.
We
and,
don't
and
know.
there's moments where, because of good storytelling, there's moments where you're like, I can kind of see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean,
Stockholm syndrome, like,
kind of
damn.
harsh, but
I wanna
at the
go with
same
this guy,
time,
like-
right?
But with Xehanort, we don't get any of that.
It's
he's
last
just
ditch,
cartoonish.
last moment
And
kind
then,
of.
yeah, and
He's
then
just cartoonishly evil for the whole game until the last 5 minutes.
and then you're just like,
Well, because he says things about taking over the world, getting all the power, and things like that. Even in the storylines that if I see between 1
Yeah.
and 2, that in the side stuff up to 3, you get more true evil. That it's just I'm a selfish ass, and I want to rule everything, and I want to live forever,
Yeah.
and screw the world. Right?
yeah.
Interesting. I
And-
mean, that does lead to a flat villain, anyways.
Yeah, but I just love that ending piece, which was really important. So this is what I was getting at, because when Kyrie gets destroyed, gets riggedy wrecked, which I will say, and I'll get onto this real quick. I know we're kind of...
No, we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
I do want to talk about the main characters, like,
Okay.
in Dimension, but I just want to finish this real quick. So, Ericus Riku thing happens. Everybody's walking away from the graveyard battle, from, like, the final... they go back to the graveyard to keep, like, graveyard or whatever. And then Sora's like, I gotta go find Kyrie. And they're like, Sora, she's gone. Just forget about it. He's like, no. And then he leaves. And then there's the credits.
Okay.
And then they go back to Destiny Islands, and everybody's having a fun beach party. It's so stupid and cheesy. Everyone's playing with sandcastles and in the water and throwing a frisbee. Even Axel is playing frisbee with people. And it's just, what? And then everybody stops, pauses, looks at the tree that Kyrie and Sora are sitting on with a Palpu fruit. And they're sitting together looking at each other over the sunset. Kyrie has a tear fall down her face, and then Sora, glitter disappears in the ether. So you don't even know if he was sitting there the entire time. They don't close the gap between Sora finding Kyrie and bringing her back. That does not get addressed. Do you know how frustrating it is when for years you just ship Kyrie and Sora because you know they're going to end up together. They're perfect together, and they love each other. They even share a moment, and this is the other thing that I don't like. At one point in the game before the final battle, they do like okay, everybody get prepared and rest, and then tomorrow we fight. And then they show a cutscene, another like 15-minute long movie of different parts where people are like preparing for this fight. And Kyrie and Sora are sitting on a tree, and they share a Palpu fruit together, and they just like stick it in each other's mouths, and they take a bite, and that's it. They don't have any like romantic moment where they like hold hands or touch, or like she leans on his shoulder. Nothing like that. Nothing that's like sweet. And it just like, it's a quick moment that was so pivotal in the first game.
I was gonna say
that
the
matters
first game,
a lot.
It's one of the main. It goes into the classic storytelling of characters who are way too young and too naive to really understand what it is they're experiencing.
Yeah.
And so between Kyrie and Sora, there's a level of interest and feeling.
Yeah.
But it's never really exposed beyond that. You know, playing, and you know the way it's presented, that they care for each other. But it's never really explored beyond that. There's just a general, they care for each other.
Well,
maybe later than what I've seen.
Yes,
or
that definitely,
really
yeah. So I was
shown.
going to say, later in the game, it does become very apparent. Like
That it's much more romantic than it is just we really care. There's
Yes.
probably more meaning.
They go to the sewer in Traverse Town, and
Because that's hot.
it's really cute. It's really, well, it's like the underground area where you can reach like Merlin's house and a bunch of different
No, I
things.
know
It's
what
like
you're
a
talking.
puzzle that's part of like part
Yep.
2 of Traverse Town anyway.
Yeah, I know that part, yes.
So she gives him a good luck charm. Her good luck charm that is a Keyblade in and of itself. And at one point, she's like, "That's my lucky charm, so be sure to bring it back to me." And in the beginning of the second game, at the end of 358 in 2 days, he wakes up holding it.
Ooh.
He falls asleep for a year holding her keychain. But at the end of that like scene, she goes, "Don't ever forget, no matter where you go, I'll always be with you." And at the end of the first game, they're getting separated, like their giant like platforms, like the rocks are getting torn apart, and they're grabbing each other, and she's like, "Don't ever let go, I'll never let you go." And like they get separated again, but that's literally the last human that Sora sees before he starts that game. Like,
Gotcha.
they have a history of getting separated and being so close and always holding on to each other through these thoughts.
Well, I
but
mean-
in the third game, that is never.
Interesting.
It's like,
Because in the first game, they did share a heart.
exactly, and that's like really heavy,
Literally in it.
heavy crap, and that does not.
Does not come across. No, I can see.
You see what I'm saying?
I can see the challenge there, especially when,
And
like you said, you had a higher
so-
desire to see more of
So
it.
this is the other thing, and I pointed this out to John because I think this is really important. So for those of y'all that are viewing this right now who remember Kingdom Hearts 2, in the beginning when they're reloading Sora's memories, he can't complete the word Kyrie. It says cut, and then it cuts off. And I
Interesting.
realized to John why that's happening. It's because I think they were trying to upload a bunch of like smaller memories, but the memory of Kyrie throughout
always,
all of
like-
those took so much memory that it was the last thing to load. And then finally, when Sora's memory of Kyrie gets finally reloaded and he can say her name, then she remembers in the real world who he is. So everybody forgets Sora and their
Interesting.
memories because they get erased. And
Well,
then
yeah,
as his
because
memories
of-
are getting uploaded, everybody starts to remember him again.
Because of the other gal, the one that's like the
Nominee.
Yeah, nominee. That's kind of the placeholder for everyone.
Yeah.
The goal of tying everything together so you can get all done.
Yeah.
The construct nominee, because once that completes, everyone
Yes.
forgets nominee except for Jiminy Cricket has the one entry that kind of says
Thank nominee.
thank nominee, and the later one that's cryptic that kind of says, everything will be solved in the pain or something. So I forget that last
Yeah.
one. But yeah, that story element of the forgetful, which is why the whole reboot.
So
and-
that's why that ending frustrated me, because we
Gotcha.
get no closure for them.
Which is funny because honestly, I just watched the trailer, essentially the extended trailer for Kingdom Hearts 3 before the show, and it very specifically talks about like this being the final story in the series kind of thing. It's like,
Oh no, it's not the final.
or because Squeenix ever finishes any story ever. That's hilarious.
See, it sucks because that particular thread between Sora and Kairi was not adequately, tied up, unfortunately. But some other things were not necessarily well tied up, but they were tied up.
But they did their best to
Okay, this is finally completed, particularly with characters that were prevalent and originally from Birth by Sleep. We got a lot of that squared away in some fashion.
Because it seems like in 3 they did mash a lot of other characters together,
Yes,
things that were
the
important
gang's all
from
here
previous and
is
stuff
what
like
it
that.
is.
Yeah, but they don't do it spread out. It's all at the end of the game.
Oh, no.
So when you're playing,
Oh, no.
yeah.
So there's no pacing to it.
So there's
It's
no
like,
pacing.
hey, guys,
you literally just bop through
walk.
these. The first half and the second half of the game are drastically different, guys. So for those of y'all that are thinking about playing this game, keep in mind you're going to be wondering, okay, so when do we get the actual thing? No, you literally start unlocking and getting and acquiring like a collection these characters, but it doesn't happen until after you defeated all these other worlds. Like you don't even get the stuff that's like spliced in between, and you don't get that middle halfway battle thing that happens. Like the pacing,
it sounds
is
like
so
bad
off
storytelling.
from Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. Exactly.
It
That's
sounds
what
like
I'm saying.
well, because and that's the challenge, right? Because when you find any story that is really brilliant, a
Yes.
smart story, heck, in anime, what was the one? Relife, I think it was, where basically the ability for someone to, it was either Relife, but ability for someone to live the life as a high schooler again, kind of thing. When you come to find out the twist, and a bigger spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it, because it's actually an amazing anime. I don't know if you guys have or plan to, but one of the big story elements in there is that the main character you're following, when you come to find out at the end, the story really wasn't about them at all. Even though the whole story feels like it's all about them, when you come to find out it's really about this other character that's been along for the ride in a different form.
That's
Once
why
you learn that and you come back and watch it again, you're like, oh my god, this is brilliant.
Yeah,
They
but-
actually showed us everything the first time, but if you didn't know that key element, you lost, now it's like a whole new viewing of it.
Poila Madoka Magica, which is one of my favorite animes. That's the same way. Another
yes.
has
Once
a
you learn
big
it,
spoiler.
you're
You're
like,
like, whoa! Yeah, that's like the best thing ever. For those of y'all that have not watched Madoka, it's on Netflix, and I
good.
highly recommend it. It's in my top 5.
It's a classic and it's fun. because
Fantastic.
Magic Girls, what could possibly go wrong?
Until the end of episode 3, and then you're like,
Oh, everything.
yeah, it just everything.
So good.
Man.
Such an acid trip. But that's the challenge is it does sound like they missed a golden opportunity to really tell an epic story because there's so much going on. I feel like I think it begs the question as to whether the writers truly had closure in mind. Like, did they really think and know what they were planning on doing, or did they kind of get to the end of what they were building and go, oh, crap, we kind of have to tie some of this up or else people are going to be really pissed?
Yes.
Because the last maybe 2 or 3 hours of the game are strictly devoted to now it's the ending. Now we've hopped around all our favorite Disney worlds, had a great old time, but now we got.
But now it's getting real.
Now it's the end. So that's it is jarring. It is unfortunate because I can see how longtime fans would feel cheated.
Gotcha.
I feel very cheap.
By
I pre-ordered the special edition. I paid $80, and for once, for the first time ever, I want to return my game to GameStop. And I have never, ever, ever turned in a game to GameStop, and I would do that for this game, which is shameful.
I would put it this way: if you aren't a fan of Disney, if you aren't a Final Fantasy type person,
Squeenix fan,
a Squeenix fan of that nature, you're not gonna get a lot out of this game and you wouldn't get a lot out of the other games.
Yeah, fair.
And
heavy Disney nostalgia for me.
Sure, yeah. For those of us who at least have that going for us, we can get something out of it. But that isn't to say it isn't worth your time.
Just know what you're getting into.
Just know what you're getting into. Know there's going to be it's going to be a slog sometimes. There are, numerous. I would describe them as more quality of life type things that are good, that are good, and some that are bad.
Yeah, and too far.
Too far. Like your buddies Donald and Goofy sometimes talk too much.
This would be a good spot to find some ingredients.
Oh gosh, I heard that from the same. What was that perspective? Yeah, it's like I think I see something. People look around like, where? What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So challenge with that is I don't know. So for people who are watching, it says we are still broadcasting and that we aren't dropping frames. So I think that was just that window died.
Okay.
So Hopefully.
Chrome
Hello?
was like,
Are we
okay,
still
we're-
there? It looks like it's still doing things. So admittedly, we were past the official 2-hour point of the show, and so
Yeah.
you're welcome on. This is kind of bonus
Okay.
time since we have the guests.
All
Bonus
right.
time.
It's up to you, and I know that Haley has things to say.
my God.
And so I don't want to cut off.
Yeah, he's watching me get antsy and like flipping this paper and
So-
trying to narrow down what I want to talk about because I don't want to
Feel
waste
free.
too much time.
So the key is it's on your schedule, and so it's as much time as you want to take for it.
So
But feel free.
I've kind of said my piece. I'm not as down on it as other folks.
Yep.
I think it is worthwhile in some aspects and difficult in others. And
So
it's,
I'll put it
It's
to
a
this:
kid's game.
from a strictly gameplay perspective, if someone was just picking up this game for the first time, would they potentially enjoy it? Like I said, being a Squeenix/Disney fan,
Yeah.
maybe
course.
not someone who doesn't know, but would they just walking into the game have some good, fun experiences throughout, even if they didn't really understand the full storyline that might have been missed?
Of course.
it's a solid maybe.
It's a Disney.
It is.
It's a Disney wet dream.
It can be at times.
Gonna-
Yeah, it can be
You're
very.
gonna love it.
It's very self-referential.
You're
on
gonna mess
occasion.
up all of your Disney sheets. Yes.
Sorry.
I'll
yeah,
say
it's
that
gonna be-
if for the
Throw you some imagery there.
for the folks. For the Final Fantasy folks, you're going to be more
Lord
disappointed
Jesus.
because they did yank a lot of Final Fantasy.
Oh, that's
elements
the
out
other
of it.
thing. They had no follow up to Leon and Yuffie and Aerith and Cloud and Sid.
Yeah.
And like there's a Moogle
There's,
still in there, but Leon's not in it. And I told you earlier how much I love Leon's character
Right.
in the game, and it's not included. Sephiroth's not even in the
So
game.
it's less now. So now with this game, it is less Disney cross Final Fantasy and more Disney cross Kingdom Hearts. Because
Yeah.
it's now Kingdom Hearts has become its own thing at this point. The characters are established.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's got, and that's an interesting piece of it because even from the first one, they do a little bit of that. But I think as they continue the storyline,
Yeah.
it kept branching out to more, especially as they added characters that do not exist anywhere else.
Sure.
And that's happened because I think most of the villains in Kingdom Hearts do not exist in other IP, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other than like who are used by the organization and
Right.
by all that. I mean, because that's where you still get your Cloud, Sephiroth, those kind of characters from Final Fantasy that aren't your player characters, but the main villains are still all just like this self-created versions and such, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to mention this because I think this is important. So I thought that there would be more growth for the characters with the aging in between, and it just
That's
feels
true
like
because this is a point where they come out and it's been years.
oh,
of
apparently
actual
not.
growth.
It's only been like maybe 2 or 3 in between, but it's been 13. Sora is not an adult in this because he acts like a child. He is
Interesting.
immature. He is like confused about literally everything. Like he has he's like, what? How? Huh?
Yeah,
What?
If for
Like,
anybody who expected the characters to grow with them,
It did not.
It did not happen.
it did not happen.
Okay.
They're still children, and I would argue this is still a kid's game.
Yeah, and this is and like Kyrie is even like literal, like more little and less well rounded than she was in the second game. Like she is so frail and tiny, and despite Disney making such a stink about embracing female empowerment and having independent female characters that we've seen throughout many films, even in the past to now especially. Kyrie is like the damsel in distress, and more so than ever. And it's just annoying. She's a Keyblade wielder now. Like she
I
took
was
the
gonna say,
time
'cause that was one
to
of the
become a Keyblade
pieces.
wielder with Lee.
Well, because the storyline, she actually takes the test and stuff, or is set up to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she still has to be like rescued, and she's not fighting off like Ansem when he snatches her away to take her to Xehanort and like get killed. She's like, let me go, and it's like, bitch, can you?
Could you please?
Could you
I
please like?
I certainly expected her to be competent.
And like more tough and not like a baby. Like what the heck? What the freaking heck happened to her? Like
Interesting.
Nothing. Yeah. And Sora is just dumb and just immature, and he tries to be really funny with his quips, and you think
Oh,
he would be like
no.
more grown. Like you think he would
because
just
that's unfortunate because there's so much opportunity with all the other side characters to bring in those kind of things.
especially Axel,
Like humor
which
and
they
stuff like
do
that.
note on, definitely, yeah. But like, this is what I've noticed. So I thought about it today because I was trying to prepare this idea to you. Like, how do I convey this thing? So when you look at people like Harry Potter, who in between every single book has 1 year of stuff happen, you see him grow. You see his maturity level change and his responsibilities and his acts grow. Same with Luke Skywalker. Same with Katniss Everdeen and other individual young teen characters or just teenagers in general that are given these like powers of responsibility. I get that Sora is like courageous and heroic, but he's still kind of immature in a way, and just doesn't seem like he's really
very aloof. And
very
naive.
aloof.
Like,
Yeah.
This is supposed to be a lot of weight and gravitas to
Got
the story.
you.
Yeah.
And he does not seem to.
Well, because in the original
Take
ones,
that.
it can make sense a little bit, because in Kingdom Hearts 1, again, could be standalone, right?
Mm-hmm.
His whole goal is just to find his friends.
Right.
And kind of that's like his whole storyline is,
Yeah.
I'm here to find my friends. And it grows into more that he's actually realizing he's helping everyone,
Yeah.
kind of thing, and saving worlds from disappearing, because that's been happening as well. But his primary goal is to find his friends. And so, yeah, that's unfortunate. I mean, you could argue, I guess, and this is me devil's advocating, I don't know, that with all the storyline that's gone on and how many minds and reboots and rewrites people have experienced,
Yeah.
that maybe there was no actual growth because they're just trying to get him back to half of almost a full piece of a person.
Yeah, but even like his
Sorry,
counterparts
But it does
are,
seem like a missed opportunity.
but even his
does.
counterparts are mature. Ventus and Roxas and Jean, they are grown. They are like, especially Roxas, in my opinion, who I love and who I think gets the worst. He pretty much gets the shit end of the stick in every sense of the. And he is just. It sucks to be Roxas.
doesn't he actually give himself up to rebuild Sora?
Yeah. And he has to
Basically.
leave everything he's ever known behind, basically. And he's just like, looks like my summer's over. And then
Yeah.
he just phases out of reality. And it's like, you just gave me an hour with this person who I really like, who is just kind and nice, and who's having this like crazy, like psychotic break in the beginning of the second game. And you're just like, what? And you don't get to see him again. And that sucks. But Roxas is still so much more mature and so much more like, I got to get to the bottom of this. Like, I think I'm losing my mind. Like, what's going on? And embraces his friendship and his love for the people that he knows. And it's just good. Like, he's just an inherently good, mature person.
I
But
have
Sora's
heard
not like
multiple
that.
ways that
I
he is
love
probably one of the
Roxas.
best characters.
Absolutely.
that you
He
get from the
gets he
series.
gets such little time for like player time, but he's so great. Sorry, go ahead.
So while, Sora has an unfortunately small amount of character development. Like you noted here, Riku does have a decent amount of character development, and he, because he's gone through a lot. He's gone
gone
from
through so
he's gone through
He's
polar
the one-
opposites.
Yeah, he's the one who was led down a dark path,
Yeah.
but then somewhat came back and reclaimed, and
Yeah.
back and forth kind of thing. So
Yeah.
has experienced a lot.
And now he is much more mature. He has like an understanding, I think more so than Sora does, of like what is at stake in the story, and is willing to make more sacrifices and kind of go to lengths that Sora doesn't seem to always get for some reason. Like he
Interesting.
doesn't always like understand what is going on, like you said, what he needs to be doing at any given moment. Whereas Riku seems much more focused.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I will say when we talk about Sora being like aloof in the game, in the start menu, like in the very beginning before you even continue the game or load the game,
Okay.
they have a journal where you can go back and read about everything that's happened before that to like catch you up. But it would have been nice to get that information or that data in the game,
Like something
actually
you're
like
playing through, revisiting,
like
have
s-
conversations.
like someone
anything.
sit Sora down and explain what's going on. And if you want to give us the option to skip the scene, fine, whatever. But give us that.
Well, because I think, and I keep catching like a similar vein throughout this discussion about missed opportunities to present a very solid or a good way of developing a story that
Yes.
they just did not do.
Yeah.
Because I believe solid games will give you some gameplay with pieces of story thrown in there where it doesn't ever feel onerous. It doesn't ever feel like you need to just kick back, take a break, and now consume this to enjoy it. The real good ones will do it through conversations on the side. We'll do it through mini cutscenes. We'll do it through some specific thing where something's revealed, or it's like, oh man, and they're like, oh yeah, there was that thing. Hey,
Yep.
and just little tidbits, and they can do that and sprinkle it throughout to keep it interesting.
Mm-hmm.
This sounds like it was multiple experiences kind of sandwiched together. And I kind of want to ask the question of if my summary might make sense in that, hey, we have all this Disney IP we can play with.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we have all these Pixar things that we haven't touched before that people really love.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Big Hero 6 is a big thing, and I know it's in it, but I haven't heard a
Our
word
world
about.
sucks.
And so, but all of these things that could be brought in, that it's like, what can we loosely use an excuse to tie all these together? Even more so than the first Kingdom Hearts, loosely tying them together. And then, like, like you said, what kind of gameplay mechanics can we put in each one of these worlds to make it something? And then, oh, by the way, I guess we have to tell a story too? I mean, it seems like very disjointed.
It is extremely disjointed because even when you are going through the Disney worlds, even more so in the previous games, it feels like they're just there to be there.
They're set pieces. They're not actually integral.
So because there's a point that sticks with both of us, I think, where you literally have to sit through the entirety of Let It Go from Frozen.
You literally have to sit through the song. You have to sit through the song Let It Go. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
That actually sounds like a decision made that's like,
I sat there like this.
Yeah, it is a frame for frame recreation of the scene from the movie, remade in Kingdom Hearts' own engine and CGI.
And you're not even playing?
No, you're not playing. You're
because
just
like my desire to make things better instantly says I could accept that if you were playing alongside Elsa and Anna doing something or whatever, right? Where it humorously fits with the scene of what you're fighting or doing. That would be like brilliant storytelling where you might end up saying, huh, we just did all of Let It Go, didn't we?
Yeah.
But it was fun because we did this, and this. You just sat back and watched a video.
You got to watch that part from the movie. That's all that happened.
Who is the person that said that it's like they expect you to already know what has happened in the story of like Rapunzel and Big Hero 6 and like and Rapunzel? There's actually a streamer that wrapped that up, and his video is called "Why Kingdom Hearts 3 Sucks," and I agree with him.
If it's okay if I plug him.
Absolutely.
His name's Cosmonaut Variety Hour.
Okay.
He's pretty well known, but yeah, he did, and he does many other videos on different subjects. But yeah, he mentioned that in particular.
And the other thing they sing, "Do you want to build a snowman?" And it's like they dub Anna talking about her and Elsa's story of like how they got to this point where she's up on a mountain. And they don't even talk about like you get to see Hans twice in that whole thing, but he's like a very pivotal part of like how Elsa and Anna get through.
Everything. Yeah.
Just silly. Like what? That world's garbage too. Yeah, it just feels like for me, for the game, that they took so many different game elements, like Assassin's Creed, Breath of the Wild. They took like a bunch of really great like little mini games, like Overcooked, some cooking stuff, like how you got to like do certain things at a time and time it, and then you got to whatever. They just pulled from so many different games to create this game, and it's messy. And to me, I was looking this up today. I was gonna try to like maybe print off a document that affirms what I'm saying to you, but Metacritic and IGN all rated the game over 80%, and I don't see how. Because I doubt very seriously that the people who have played these games play the other ones. You're just taking it at face value, but you don't know the lack of progress that this game has made.
So I'm wondering because, and this tells something about the gaming culture and everything.
Or pushing an agenda, yeah.
Well, that, heaven forbid money talks, and hate to think that any of these sites could be driven by such, but maybe it is more innocent in that it's being caught up in the hype train.
Yeah.
Because what's interesting to me is seeing some of what I see as responses on social media from people who've completed the game and have talked through it. And because people were actually really good about we are not sharing spoilers on the thing, because there are a lot of people who binged it. I know people who finished the game in a couple days.
Yep.
Right? And to people who are like, I'm working, I couldn't get it at this point, I will get it as soon as I can, I want to play this. A lot of people that have a lot of want and desire for this game to be good. And all I have seen, the little bit of eked out, is people saying, I finished the game and I'm in tears.
I definitely cried at the Ericus Xehanort
emotional responses, right?
Reunite thing.
And so,
Reunion.
But without the context, not knowing if that was an overall summary of the game or just a moment of it. I know people who had mentioned they had feels and some kind of tearful response through multiple pieces of the game. And so, in general, I've got the sense that people are having a memorable, good experience with it. And that's why, for me, it was also kind of entertaining or interesting when I first saw you ranting a bit about it, that I was like, oh, wait, maybe there's more to this. Because me not having followed on and not knowing what to expect, I just assumed people had got exactly what they had hoped. Only to find out maybe not.
You go ahead.
I'm really disappointed that a lot of the fans of the series actually thought this game was like
the best,
astounding. Yeah, because I don't see how. And maybe they're just, again, being blinded by love, because that's a real thing, especially with certain series. I remember when I first watched Captain America Civil War, and I mentioned this to John and Matt, my roommate. I said that, at first I thought it was really, really good. And I can come to defense about the game and the story, but certain characters I can't defend their line of reasoning and how it got to this point, because I know that
Captain's bro love of his little boy Bucky.
Well, you know why they did that. Yeah, it's because Fox
willing to allow the world to end in many ways for bromance.
Yeah, this guy. Well, it did that because Fox didn't allow Disney to own the term mutants, and that's such a big piece to Civil War. That's literally how the Civil War kicks off, because the government wants the mutants to register and Iron Man's like, okay, it's the law, so we should do this. And Captain America, who's a defender of freedoms, is like, no, we should not do that. And that's how it gets started. It has nothing to do with Bucky. So, like, that whole piece triggered me.
I cannot stand Bucky as the way he's been portrayed in the entire MCU. I think he is so overrated.
You didn't like him in Winter Soldier?
No.
Really?
He's just
I don't like the way he's acted. I mean, I don't want to hate on the actor himself. I think it's the way it was written and put together, that he's just a weak character. And yet they use him as plot driving through so much of it that I'm just like, this is dumb. And this character should not have done such a pivot on the way they normally portray themselves for one relationship. It hurt me to watch.
Yeah.
And I will admit, I am often negatively charged by fandom. And because of the overarching love I've heard for Bucky, and there just squee that happens for him around so much of the community, I'm just like, are you watching the same thing I am? What the hell? Win or meh? I mean, plot points of like, oh, you're saying words in my head, and now I'm going to be like, murr.
Fandom love is real. It is so disgusting real.
Me.
Yes, and that's why I feel this frustration towards people who liked Kingdom Hearts 3, because there are so many things wrong with it. And I get it that it's like, again, a Disney wet dream, but come the hell on, Squeenix. Could you just put in a little bit more effort? Hell, I would have waited another year or two for the game to come out polished and perfect. But I feel like they had such an agenda, because for years after years after years, they have announced that they're going to finally release the game, and then they had put a deadline on it and had to release it at the quality that it was. Please.
So do you guys think that because of how the fandom for Kingdom Hearts, that people are more willing to overlook the flaws?
I absolutely believe so. Well, so one of the more entertaining things, and I think fandom and hype are things that actually drive a lot of people's opinions, whether they appreciate it or not. One of the more entertaining things I've done as an exercise lately is when I was down in Florida with my friend Take a Chance Cosplay, and we went and saw Hamilton and stuff. Her and her father introduced me to a episodic show on Screen Rant on YouTube, which is the pitch show. It's movie pitches, and basically it's a show where a guy plays both sides of it, and they're 3 to 5 minute long shows where all he does is talk about the plot issues with movies and TV series.
Okay.
And part of that is I was like watching him and truly entertaining, and what gets me is when he brings up movies I quite enjoyed. And suddenly I look through and he's showing the obvious plot holes and convenient devices and stuff they do it, where I have to stop back and look at it and go like, oh, maybe that movie wasn't as good as I thought it was. I mean, because there's ones I honestly disliked for the reasons that come up and are obvious, but there's other ones I realized I looked over. And like one of them is the Christian Bale Batman with Bane in it. I always forget the name.
Oh, I hate that.
Because I only really saw it like once.
Or no, that's
exactly.
It's not that good.
But I saw it the one time and I was like, okay, I enjoyed it. Watching his Screen Rant pitch on it made me go like, oh snap, that was awful writing. Like, holy cow, that was bad. No wonder I've never been driven to see it again, right? And so there's ones that get glossed over in some cases, and he'll point out things that I still love, even despite some of the holes. But I found that's a thing that's kind of highlighted that aspect in my mind of how much the rosy-colored glasses can easily put a spin on something versus reality.
And I would hope that wasn't the case. I would hope people would be able to be more objective.
Well, and you really want it from reviewers, right?
Right.
The people who are... Because I try to go both sides of something. I will tell you what is good and what is bad as best I can. And I try to admit when, all right, I have a soft spot in my heart for this thing.
Yeah.
And so I will probably enjoy it in spite of these flaws. right? And that happens. You try to do anything that has a flaw in the storyline of Firefly and Serenity, I'm going to punch you. But because I know I have a love for them.
Yeah, there's some things we'll always like vigorously defend, to the death, right?
Yes.
And I imagine it's not it's much the same way with Kingdom Hearts.
Well, and I'll be curious to hear more about what comes out after the initial gloss rolls over. Because admittedly, this is us having a show like this a bit earlier than I would normally.
Sure.
And normally we give people, I don't know, I forget if we give people full months after certain things come out, movies and things like that, before spoils.
Our rule is 3 weeks.
Yeah, see, 3 weeks is normally like our online.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our online rule for work.
Yeah, and so I kind of follow that. For the show, I try to give about a month because I really push, especially if I enjoyed something, like, please go see this before you hear me gush. Battle Angel Alita.
I gotta go see that.
Oh my god, it's good.
Oh, is it? Ooh, okay. I was hoping.
It is a literal translation of the
Bug Eyes freaking
OVAs,
out.
if nothing else.
Ooh,
like
okay.
the exact thing of it. Hey, Jabronajek Pot. How goes? I always wonder if I can, on the fly, read someone's name and get it somewhat right. Oh no, a lot of email reading I've done that has made this easier. In fact, I didn't even check to see, did we get any emails in? Because you are always welcome to email showx@VtWProductions.com. We are paying attention to the live chat, though, so feel free to jump in those as well.
Did we get any emails?
We have not got any emails, but we have had an active chat talking about to a degree, so that is okay.
That's good.
But yeah, no, like side note, because I think it's timely to say that I recommend going to see Alita: Battle Angel.
Okay.
Much in how I recommended Spider-Verse, in the sense
Gotta see
that
that too.
Yeah, we need to
some of the best in these genre that I have seen. Like
Okay.
Spider-Verse, I will out on limb say one of the best superhero movies I have ever seen, regardless of format, be it live action, animation, or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Flipping
That's
amazing.
A recommendation.
And Battle Angel, Alita, and going back to the timeline of it, that it came out back in... I can drop the spoiler thing for this. That Battle Angel came out originally in the manga back in 92-ish in Japan, and the OVAs made around 93. Got 2 episodes that you can still find on YouTube and watch. This is not literal, but damn close to almost the exact rendition of the OVAs in a
Sweet.
movie format,
Cool.
while bringing in story elements from the manga that came out later, the 8 or 10 books I think there were total for the manga.
Okay.
And I am super happy with the casting, with the choices they made, even the things that people had potentially criticized, like the slightly oversized eyes that are shown, that were done by choice to kind of give an anime feel based on some of the original manga aspects. I forgot about 5-10 minutes into essentially that
I personally don't
showing
mind
up.
it. I think it's
Oh, I mean, I was concerned because I
Yeah.
have a love
Yeah.
for Battle Angel, much like I do things like Ghost in the Shell and some of these other ones
Yeah.
that I actually forgive a lot. But with Battle Angel, I don't need to. My cousin went with me. He doesn't follow manga or anime at all. Saw it as just a really cool action sci-fi.
Okay.
And I will say they were true enough to the IP that there's blood, there's guts, there's destruction, and it ain't happy. And it follows, like I said, the timeline and the kind of story of the OVA almost to a T.
Wow.
awesome.
I'm really happy. Like, after going back, I actually watched some review of the kind of like before it had come out, but some preview
Yeah.
after seeing it, and was like, nah, that was hella spot on. So I'm highly recommending Battle Angel, and I want to see it get even higher ratings so that more studios see that it is okay to make an honest representation of the things we love as geeks. You don't have to, Hollywood it. You don't have to
Right.
muck it up. You can do basically what they showed, and it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing concept. Anyhow.
Dragon Ball Evolution, looking at you.
Well, looking at most, adaptations, right?
Right, yeah.
When you see where it's like, hey, we took creative license with this aspect of the story.
Ooh, don't.
Yeah, right? That is such a good way to just respond. Yeah, don't. Look at the Game of Thrones in the world. Look at the games or the different IPs where they actually try to follow a known story.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's almost like the first one got famous and big for a reason.
Yep. Yeah,
So-
it's all for a good reason. So you don't need to mess with it too much.
So it's funny. Oh, so in saying specifically with Battle Angel, I throw a recommendation, and I welcome anyone telling me why they maybe didn't like it.
Sure.
I could be incorrect, maybe, but I'm not. But it's one of those that I'd be curious to hear people's opinions because I'm recommending it heavily.
Okay.
That one. Anyhow, so
As
a side
for
note.
Kingdom Hearts, I think, me personally, it's a recommend in the sense that in the scope of the whole of the series, it is not necessarily any any worse than any one of the games story-wise. I think it is marginally better in terms of combat mechanics in several ways. Certain quality of life things are better, but there are definitely some glaring problems that especially longtime fans will find. We'll take issue with.
I'm seeing the faces and the judgment.
Yeah.
I think.
Is it a solid
man.
pass? Is it at least an experience?
I rated it a D plus C minus.
Okay.
It is
C-minus.
not.
It's slightly below average. It's like a C minus.
It's
I went to school.
It's Garbo, I think, in my opinion, but that's because I have a certain affinity.
So it's like
I have a certain affinity for parts of the game that I think are really important.
Up until the ending, what were your feelings? Were you having a good time? Do you?
No, it was just repetitive.
Okay then.
Well, no, but
It was extremely repetitive
There's
with the
something to be said for
combat
that.
and with the same old story over and over again. It's like you're going through it, and then about halfway, your NPCs have to go do something else, and then they disappear, and then Goofy and Donald are the only ones in your party, and then the other guys join back, and then you go and fight the same boss with no strategy, and then you leave the world, and you go to a new place, and Sora's, and they're like, "Where to now, Sora?" And between everything, and he's like, I don't know, and he does this like 5 or 6 times, and you're like, oh my god,
let your heart lead the way.
Basically, yeah, let your heart
Point your keyblade out and see.
yeah,
what happens.
let your heart lead the way. Let your keyblade point it out. And he's like, well, I don't know what to do. And then he's like, Bo, I got it. And he does it like
I say that 'cause
over
I saw
and
that
over.
in that first cutscene kind of thing where they do it. I was like,
shit.
oh, so they do that over and over.
Yeah.
Literally the
Rinse and
same old
repeat.
song and dance. And guys, if you like repetition and easy gameplay, please play Kingdom Hearts 3. It is a below average game. It is not that good.
Maybe play it on proud mode and see how you do.
Yeah, play on proud mode if you're gonna play it, because normal is disgusting easy. It is baby legs, baby food, baby yum yums, Gerber baby level.
Tell me, guys, it's a kids game.
Yeah, it's freaking.
Okay.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
That is so. Those are some solid opinions that I think you've done a lot to support as to how you feel about what you've experienced with Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
I do really appreciate it. It's going to, I think, help people who have already seen it to a degree agree or disagree, as they will, as to whether they choose to experience it, go further. Like I said, thankfully we're past the spoiler piece, so I mean, for hopefully those who stuck in for there and have their opinions, I'm happy to hear them. We'd love to hear back. I can always forward it on. We can have more discussions, both in the comments of the YouTube and stuff like that, of what you guys think. Whether every one of us was right, wrong, or otherwise perplexed by the overall experience that is Kingdom Hearts.
And I would love to hear if you guys want to send me an email or send Wayne an email, and he'll get back with us about different opinions and stuff. He can forward it on to me, and I can answer any questions that you guys have. But I know some of y'all may be listening to this going, this freaking with her whack opinion about this game, or somebody out there is like, pray sister, preach, Lord, preach. And that's great. But I want to hear, for those of y'all that have played it or have not played it and have some questions about it, please ask me, because I'm an open book, and I love having game discussions, especially with good friends.
No, it is good. And actually,
So-
I kind of want to somewhat transition on this last note, and we can end it from there.
Okay.
From what Jaboni's saying, they're saying, my opinion, a lot of the video gamers are starving for an amazing game. There's not really a game out there that I am holy crap, I can't wait for this game to come out.
I have one.
And that's why I was curious, because one of the things we haven't yet got to on our show yet this year, which we're so far behind, is preview of 2019 and what's about to come out.
Oh, the Nintendo Direct.
I'll
just came
give
out.
you 2 words. Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh yeah,
It's gonna happen.
And I am curious for that one, because
Yes.
I am trying not to overhype. I see a lot of what I'm hopeful for, and when I first saw the trailer, I was like, this is either either Cyberpunk or what's the other one? It's either Cyberpunk or no, not Rift World. There's basically two pen and paper games that came out. Shadowrun. It was either Shadowrun or Cyberpunk. I was like, it's one of these two. And so a little more, I was like, oh, this is Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
And because I loved that, and I might still have game books in my collection downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is one I'm looking forward to.
Certainly.
Haley, do you have one that you'd at least try to tease people with and say, hey, maybe there still is?
2 words.
Animal Crossing. I love casual and indie gaming, and I love Nintendo.
As much Stardew Valley as I've seen you stream.
I've played that, yes, sir. You know, I played
I went back through your channel a bit watching. I was like, oh, that's right.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I have never gotten those games.
I love
ever.
Stardew Valley. It is my favorite. It's so wonderful. It's so beautiful.
I've never understood farming simulators in a game like
Oh,
that.
but that's
It's like,
more
why
than
do
a
I
farming
wanna-
simulator.
why do I wanna
It's a dating
maintain-
sim,
It's a
and you
chore
have
simulator.
to do. That's what. Steal my word. That's what I call Animal Crossing Pocket Camp Chore Simulator, because you
It's-
literally
it's the,
just
like-
do stuff
Well,
for
that's
people.
the thing. I don't want to go weed my virtual garden when I don't want to do it in real life.
I mean, yeah. See, I don't have a yard, so I have to live vicariously through
If I owned a house,
Goldie
I too
and
could hate my life like this.
Isabella. Yeah.
I don't want to fish in real life. Why would I do it in a video
I
game?
like fishing.
Well, I guess I could do it the same way as I would in real life and just drink a lot of beer.
Right? Yeah.
And like every other occasion, like throw it out there, like, did I hit the button in time? Oh,
There you
but
go.
no, I
I
give joke because I know it's a highly popular
Yeah.
genre that I just don't get.
I love it.
And so I get you.
Hmm.
Well, because like for me on the lines, it's like the next Metro game coming out because
Mm-hmm.
I have loved the Metro series. It has some
does
of
that come out?
the best atmosphere. It's soon. Actually, the new Metro should be out here real quick.
And I'm gonna play Anthem. I know. See, I enjoyed Destiny at 1 and 2.
Get
Also-
outta here.
So here's the thing. I had when Destiny 2 went free,
Yeah.
I started playing it and I like the experience. It's very polished, it's very
It is.
fast and fluid. It is very repetitive.
Yeah.
And there's not really a whole great storyline in there, but it's there and it's fun. What I like is I can throw it on this ridiculous monitor at 4K and it runs at over 60 frames per second, and it's just a quick
is a-
controller level or keyboard mouse equally just experience.
It is. Yep. Gunplay's great.
But it's not great. It's good. It's
no.
good. It's better gunplay than maybe the Division was, and it's like I don't
a
know.
low
It
bar.
is a mix off of what I loved of Borderlands,
Yeah.
where
yeah,
but
yeah.
without the same heart and soul.
Yeah,
Doesn't
yeah.
give me a Tiny
Borderlands
Tina.
had like the. You're right. It did have the soul, that, and there's not much of that, unfortunately, in Destiny. They went, I think, of maybe a little more serious than they should have. I'm hoping that Anthem doesn't suffer from that same kind of thing. Maybe they're can spice.
Well,
things
and that's the
up
thing. I
somehow.
played the beta real quick, and I was
Yeah.
like, eh. I really was because and right after that, Apex dropped, and I was like, oh, this is polished.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah,
that's
This is
great game.
nice. Look
Yeah.
at this. Where Anthem, I was still like, I'm chasing other people I don't really care about, and nothing in the story has caught me yet. Well, and
Maybe
I
I
mean,
just
it was a
like-
beta, or a demo, but it was still like, I know a lot of people are hyped. A lot of
think,
people are hyped for it. I'm just like, it's just not one that draws me.
Sure, and I think maybe I just like Iron Man flying everywhere too much.
Which is a thing, and they kind of do, and I still think they do better in Apex.
You're right, actually. Yes, I'll grant you that.
Little things. So it's like, let's see. Yeah, Metro 20. I looked up 2033. So where Last Light Exodus is the next one, right?
Yeah, you got it.
And so Exodus.
I saw some gameplay already. I believe some folks were playing it.
It looks pretty, and I want to say it's supposed to actually release. Oh, did it release?
It came out
15th. It says is
yeah,
when it was supposed to. So it might have come out or be this week or something to that effect. It's one of those ones that's been on my radar.
Yeah,
And admittedly, one of the few games that we'll see how good it runs on mine, and it won't get me to get a 2080 Ti yet, because I want one, but I ain't got the 1500 for it.
right.
But yeah, no, that series is so good. One of the ones I throw out there.
Do you have another game, Haley, besides Animal Crossing?
So I know that like Yoshi's World's coming out, and then they have another Kirby
Nice.
game, which I would like to give another shot at. I just heard that the last Kirby game, like All Stars or something, I can't remember what it's called.
Kirby Star Allies.
Yeah, Star Allies.
Was iffy. Wasn't that great?
Yeah, I heard it was kind of.
Very short, apparently.
Yeah, that's kind of disappointing for me. So like, I don't really want to play a game like that. I would love if they re-released or did a remix of Kirby and the Crystal Shards, or if they did something to that effect, or something more like Mario 3D World, but for Kirby. Like,
Interesting.
that would be really rad
Need,
instead
like,
of a side
full-
scroller.
need a full game for my man Kirby.
Well, I was gonna say
Yeah.
because I've not really played the Kirby games. It's so there's
Oh,
certain
Crystal
there's
Swords.
certain ones I've missed out on. Like I missed out on Kirby. I missed out on Rayman, which are both amazing kind of platformers in their own right, and they have their
Right.
followings. I know they're legit good games that I just never quite played. Partly not having Nintendo systems that match for the Kirby stuff coming up, and Rayman. I know I was playing other games, and then I saw them come through, and I was like, I should have, kind of thing. But I could see doing a full on because honestly, what Kirby Yarn.
Kirby's Epic Yarn.
Epic Yarn game
Yeah.
is solid, right?
Yeah,
That
it's
is like
quite
a
good, yeah.
lovely, wonderful game. I've touched it, and it had feels from the get go of like this is
Yeah,
this
it's
is kinda,
nice.
It's the Nintendo version of what I got from Little Big Planet. Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, I got this.
Absolutely.
Good. That's good. see, when you say London 2049, was that the only one I could think of? Jabroni's talking about was Hellgate London, but I was like, nah, I don't know if that's the one you're thinking of. So I know there's other good games coming. There's a lot of big RPG type things and stuff that are coming up. I have actual stories set up in my notes of like the top 50 games to look forward to.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
stuff
if
like that.
I haven't really spent a lot of time doing games, and I did stop a lot of my streaming in November when class started getting a little crazy.
That happens.
I shifted,
Life first.
Yeah, I shifted my focus to the stuff that pays me. Not that Twitch doesn't pay me, but let's just go ahead and face it.
Oh, it doesn't pay me.
I don't have a lot
for
of
our show, so.
So yeah, I kind of shifted my focus to kind of harp more on programming, because programming is the devil, in my opinion. But
what? You got through Java?
yeah, please.
You did the hard part.
Java, C++, my God.
Just got to Python everything, right?
Yeah.
It's all that matters.
So
Yeah.
the funny part, and you actually appreciate this, is my co-host Ken is a programmer.
Oh, right on.
And he actually works at university as one of his things where he teaches new people programming and stuff like that. I think you get on well in that sense.
Cool.
He knows his things, and I don't get to say enough because while I have a CS degree, that was many moons ago, and I don't actively use it.
Yeah.
You can see from my shelf of like what I did learn.
Yeah, I did know.
At some time. Yeah.
HTML.
Back when those things were relevant.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else we got? We got like
Yeah.
Far Cry New Dawn, Crackdown 3, people have been like mad about.
I played Far Cry 5, and there were a lot of bugs I've noticed. Like, my allies would trip over a fence and then need to be rezzed. And I'm like, why?
What?
Why though?
Games with allies.
Yeah, so like Far Cry 5 was pretty cool. It's just kind of dramatic and repetitive, and I've heard that, like, I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool how they kind of they took a interesting direction with it. It was kind of on the nose with a couple of things, like different cults and stuff,
Okay.
especially in the
It
United
was-
States.
It was
Oh,
fun.
interesting.
You can tell Ubisoft is continuing to try and recapture
Ubisoft.
the magic that they had with Far Cry 3 and
Well,
all
Yeah,
that.
Far Cry 3 is just so good.
Well, so the challenge, right? Because you have competing genres like Just Cause
Yep.
and stuff that are not the same game, but have gotten similar enough that people
Yeah.
now want more of that experience.
Yeah.
Like Saints Row 4.
Like Saints Row has got its own.
Yes.
Like everyone who's played Saints Row has been like, give me my big, my big wobbly bat of, feminine pleasure. And,
Yes.
and I will go.
Nice.
Kill
I was gonna
everything
say
can.
it, but I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, no.
Things
please.
like that. Well, because I look at the list, like Total War, Three Kingdoms, and a lot of these I haven't heard much about, but I'm curious, and I know the Total War
I'm
series
always
in
for,
general has been quality for people
Yeah,
who
I'm
love
always
that.
for Total War games.
Devil May Cry 5, I never
I've
followed
never-
them.
never
I know they're just straight action, blah, blah, blah. I just started from the other side of that because of access to systems finally,
Yeah.
playing Bayonetta. And that's one where I could say, like, I probably would appreciate that series more than I would the Devil May Cry, and I think
Right.
there's a lot of similarity.
Man, when Smash
in
Bros.
gameplay.
came out, she was so meta, dude. Bayonetta was so meta.
Division 2, which I always have hope because I wanted Division 1 to be better than it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it could have been if people didn't try to just go endgame it right away and just actually play the story with
Right.
groups at their own level and
Yeah.
enjoyed it. So
We'll
I
see.
want that to be better. Sekiro Shadow Dice Twice. Or Shadows Die Twice.
I don't know what that
know
is.
if I know that
Oh,
one.
I saw.
It's
I
from
believe
Dark
I remember
Souls
seeing
developer.
the E3 trailer for that. It looked very, very good.
Because
Like,
I'm not
the
sure if that's the one
visuals.
I'm thinking. There's the one that I forget who was showing that's all about Japanese culture coming up through, that you're playing as like a Lost Samurai or something coming
I
through.
want to say it's that one.
It may be because if it's that one, whichever one that is, I'm like down for.
Yeah.
Like, that
Yeah,
one
yeah.
I want to see happen. Mortal Kombat 11 because all things Mortal Kombat. Rage 2, which I'm actually looking forward to because I feel like Rage 1 had so much potential and
Yeah,
didn't quite hit it. And
they
2
did.
looks like it has a ton of technology again, but
I
actually
think they did
computers that can
have
handle it.
something there. They can work with it.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Shenmue 3. That's an
Never-
interesting one. So Shenmue's because like I played a little bit of the originals, and it's another one of those really deep RPG storylines in a more modern sense that you can go huge into Japanese like mafia culture. Could be a big deal. And
Isn't that the one they had like tried to crowdfund?
Maybe
Is it that
because
one?
I know it went back and forth whether it was going to be made.
One,
And
I feel like it was.
But that's still later in the year. There's Animal Crossing, which is at some point this year. After Party, I don't know. Control.
Oh, After Party. That's the one where you go to hell and you're trying to like outdrink the devil and do super stuff. I've seen it on PC. I have it on my wish list on Steam. I think if I'm
It doesn't
not
say who
mistaken,
it's
it looks a lot like
from.
Hotline Miami. Kind of. It has that
Okay.
same animation style, and it actually looks pretty good. I'm kind of interested in that because I
Yeah.
think it looks more indie. So
Made by the same developers who made Oxenfree.
Okay. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's where-
Oxenfree
'cause I
is
don't know
so
that
good.
one. So, well, it sounds like it's more of an indie type one.
yes.
So it's likely I would have missed.
Yes. It's
Okay.
I
So
love Oxenfree.
other ones, Control, which again I don't recognize myself. Dreams, don't know. The next Gears of War, I've liked all the Gears of War games for what they are. Luigi's Mansion,
Yes.
I don't care for. I haven't played. I don't
I'm gonna play
know
it.
the appeal, but I know
I
it's,
didn't get to play the original, so I'm
but it's a
excited about
classic
this one.
Nintendo thing, and most
Yeah.
Nintendo IP tends to be strong.
Yeah.
Ori and Will of the Wisps. That one I'm actually kind of curious. It's the
Is
that a
follow-on
sequel?
for Ori.
Yeah,
It's
For
the
Blind
direct.
Forest?
Blind
it's the
Forest.
direct sequel. So that one looks like it could be very interesting because I know Ori and the Blind Forest was huge.
Yeah.
I have it and still haven't played it because I've been trying to play other ones I still have.
Yeah.
It's too many games. Psychonauts 2. That I think is going to be a risky one because Psychonauts is cult classic. Whether they can maintain.
Yeah.
I don't know what Sayonara Wild Hearts is.
I'm not sure either.
That one looks like a little indie-ish. I'm not sure. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I really do not follow or care until I see more.
That face.
Because Star Wars stuff is such a... And I don't know if that's still on the books or not.
I'm still so torn up they got rid of 2080
Level-
whatever the
Yeah, the one on Coruscant where you're actually playing... the one that looked freaking cool.
And then Disney scrapped it.
But
I'm
yeah,
so
said,
mad
nah,
about
we
that.
don't want a good game.
Yeah, we'll just make Battlefront 2, guys. Here you go.
Yeah, Outer Worlds, I don't know.
I've heard of Outer Worlds, I think.
Another Wolfenstein Youngblood, that's the one that actually I kind of have some hype for because it's the main character's kids in the 80s versus
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
70s, 60s, 70s time frame.
Sure.
Yoshi's Crafted World,
Yes, that's the...
Is that the
Yeah,
one?
that's the Yoshi's game.
2.5D one.
Mm-hmm.
That one will be interesting, and then there are others, right? But that's just a list because and that's kind of just a quick one. I have some list of 50 and ones that are per console or per genre.
I think they're
thing,
releasing
so there's bunches.
Mario Maker 2 is supposed to be on the
That
books.
could be interesting.
Yeah, there's...
See, and I'll give credit because I've jumped back into some of these older games since I've now, there's a Wii U sitting in my living room, so I finally have access to some of these things I've been playing. I give Nintendo credit. They, as core gameplay and games they pull out, have some solid mechanics. Tend to be just generally enjoyable. It's why I've been focused on the Zelda series. When I play through it, they put a smile on my face, and I kind of go like, oh yeah, games can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And look at that little bit of joy you just gave me that is both a challenge and a puzzle, but in a fun way.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. And so I do look forward to seeing what Nintendo will do. I'm always a little hesitant and hating on them because I feel like they're an awful lazy company. They don't venture out much, but it
Yeah.
sounds like they're doing more with the
mean,
Switch.
Oh, speaking of Nintendo, also excited for the new Metroid Prime game.
Oh, I hadn't heard any more about that one.
Metroid Prime 4. When that comes out, I'll be definitely trying my hand at that.
Someone said a remaster Chrono Trigger.
Don't they have one-ish one?
I don't think so.
When the one
I
that
don't
they
think
brought to
it's
PC, I thought they did something to it.
I don't believe
Because I thought
I'm
this,
not sure.
I'm pretty
feel like
sure
I
you could
would've
do it
heard
on
about that.
Steam, but I don't think it hit the full what people want of a remastered something.
Yeah.
But I thought you could finally at least get it on Steam and such. Oh, come on.
We should take some time to get some games.
Yeah, Chrono Trigger for $15 on Steam.
Yeah, this has
But-
got me hyped now for everything.
But
Yeah,
I
thanks a
think-
lot.
No, but I think this is basically the original with some
Oh, it's
minor
Squeenix.
things.
Squeenix.
And so I think they did some things to it. But I don't think it's because that's the thing. I don't think it's truly remastered.
Right.
I think it's more like they just brought it over, made it work well, and
It's just a port.
tweaks. More of a port, but
Yeah.
not just a port, I guess. I don't know.
Kira Toriyama.
It kind of fits in that middle ground for what it is. I'm showing them it play on the big screen as we're talking about because I knew it was out there, and I have never truly played Chrono Trigger. It's
I
another one of those
have-
ones because I never had a SNES. I never had certain ones that I just...
Well, it says
Missed?
It said on there, the Timeless RPG returns packed with upgrades.
And that's what I say. I think they
So-
just kind of tweaked it for
Sure.
the
Yeah.
PC experience.
I have seen,
But it's essentially still the original game.
I've seen a playthrough of this. Like I watched a Let's Play sort of.
Okay.
The whole game. I never played it myself.
Well, this is one that Copy has pushed at me before I started playing it once. I think it was this
Yeah.
one. It was either this or it was either Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, or something else along the series.
I hear people do not like Chrono Cross at all. Like
There are some opinions, right?
Yeah,
And
there
I
are
forget
some-
the other series that I kind of mirror between them. There's another one that's I feel like there's 3 games out there that are all similar in
Dragon
the gameplay.
Quest?
Not the Dragon Quest ones.
No?
It was like Moon. So I don't know. Again, Copy would know these things, but I don't know, right? It's
Copy, please.
Copy is my throwback.
Copy bless.
My throwback queen.
Yes, yep.
She keeps track of everything. But I could see because do I want more remakes or do I want more new games?
I mean,
I'll take both, please.
I like. I know that there are some games now. I'm a big fan of watching streamers play games. Especially the Grumps. I love the game Grumps so much because they have such a diverse spread of games that they play, and they're also really enjoyable. Like, I feel we kind of personified ourselves like the Grumps. So like, he's Aaron and I'm Dan, but sometimes I'm Aaron and he's Dan because I'll rage or he'll rage or whatever. And they play this one game called Yamawari Porporo, and it's a horror game.
Okay.
That is actually pretty terrifying, and it is just this cute little chibi characters, and then out of nowhere, you get these nasty monsters, and they're just chasing you. And
it's from a top-down perspective, so you
Yeah.
you would not
Interesting.
imagine.
You don't think you're going to get a true
Yeah,
horror experience
you would
from that
not
top
think.
down.
I'm stressed about it.
I would
Just thinking about it.
Just thinking about it stresses
it
me
is
out.
it is extremely
Yeah.
very terrifying game.
Yeah, and then of course, Katamari reroll because Katamari's
the new Katamari
the
game.
new Katamari game is supposed
Okay.
to.
We
Yeah.
do get, speaking of Nintendo games, got the few Nintendo games we got announced at the recent Treehouse. One
Yeah.
of them being the what
It was-
Yoshi's
Crafted World.
Crafted World.
Yeah, that was
We got
the
a
one.
little more fleshed out on that. We got the remake of Link's Awakening,
Yes.
and a couple others.
Yeah.
Which those I'm
I'm-
like, but again, that's not tying to anything in my past, so
Right,
it's
yeah.
not.
I just need Animal
For me
Crossing. Like, I needed it yesterday.
She's all about the Animal Crossing.
Yes.
I've never played an Animal Crossing.
I have
I
Isabel.
tried on my 3DS, and I was just
I
kinda
have
like,
Isabel and
eh.
Celeste amiibos in the boxes still in my house, and if I could get a Goldie, I would melt.
Yes.
I love Goldie.
Hey, Copy, are you still keeping up with your amiibo collection or not? Because what was your final count, or how many do you currently have? I'll throw that out there. And Copy says I played Trigger and not Cross. And no, I did not play it without you because I barely have time to play what I want to play, let alone stuff I'm trying to, recapture some of my missed youth.
Right.
And so, let's see. It says put Mario. Jabroni saying put Mario RPG and Paper Mario on Switch also, while you are remaking Chrono Trigger. Yes,
Heck yeah.
yes. The amiibo count, Copy. In general, you don't have to give me. Oh,
Uh-oh.
well, there was a period where she owned every amiibo
Yep, I believe it.
and and had a shelf that at the time could hold every amiibo. And it was brilliant made because it
I
was
don't
perfectly
know.
boxed from the back, so you put them in from the back and they'd overlap, but you'd just see the
Yeah.
packaging from the front. It is a sight, but and has gone beyond what that shelf could hold at the time. So she doesn't want to admit it because she knows it's a big amount.
Yeah.
We're
But
talking
no, there's
more or less than 100.
more.
Only like
200?
1 or 12.
It's at one point when I knew it was like 127, and I think it
Oh.
went up from there. But
I know what games I think should come out for the Switch. There's a series of puzzle games. So, for those that know me, I like mystery and puzzle games a lot.
Okay.
That's a big thing for me. Even Doc's watched a couple of my streams before. The 999 games, the Virtue's Last Reward, and the different what are they called? Zero Escape games. There's 3 in the series that came out for the DS, and I don't think they were out for the Game Boy. I think they were out for the DS, and they're wonderful. My favorite is Virtue's Last Reward, which is the second one, and it is awesome. It's an escape the room that has a lot of puzzle aspects, but it's also storytelling, so you have to go through and play the game like in 9 different ways to get all of the endings and to get the full story.
Huh.
It's really crazy. Like, there's different rooms and different things that you'll enter, and you'll get smarter, and the more you play through it, the more material and the more like content you'll unlock, which is kind of cool. It's just a different direction to take a puzzle game instead of it being so horizontal, you just like shoot straight through the room. It's like these different, like weaving different things to unlock a bigger piece of the puzzle.
Interesting.
Very awesome. If you have not played them before, I highly recommend it. I know you
So
can get them all on PC.
the 9
You can actually
hours,
get a
9
package.
persons, 9 doors.
Yep, 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. Yep, 999.
Gotcha. Because it says available for DS, iOS, PlayStation 4, Vita, and Windows.
It comes out on the PlayStation 4. Hey, so I got you that gift card for Valentine's Day, right? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You can
But seriously.
for the house.
Right.
Well, and like for me, I am actually looking forward to the Final Fantasy VII remake whenever that does
Whenever that
something.
happens.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too.
God.
I never played
That'll
any of the
be-
Final Fantasy games when I was a kid, so I'm really
Yeah, me
excited to
either,
play
so that'll
this.
be my first.
Yeah.
Well, and
Forty
I am
into
not nearly to the proliferation that so many of my friends have that they went all the way back through the original Japanese
Yeah.
release ones, played them all through, and know that this one's really that one and all that kind of stuff. I did 7 Up and stopped at X2 because I was annoyed.
Speaking of, to kind of go back to Kingdom Hearts, but to tie in with Final Fantasy, the creator Tetsuya Nomura
Yes.
is also a Final Fantasy creator, and at the end of the game,
Wait, you should put up the spoiler banner.
is this really a spoiler?
Well,
It's
it's
kind
up
of a spoiler.
just in
It's-
case.
Just
It's a
in case.
spoiler.
So
Don't.
this is potential spoilers.
You've been
I suppose.
warned.
At the end of the game, you get teased with a game that he kind of wanted to create back before Final Fantasy 15 came out.
Oh,
Final Fantasy 15 was originally supposed to be Final Fantasy Versus 13,
interesting.
and then he was actually removed from the project.
See, I remember some scuttle about that.
Yeah, he was removed from the project, and they changed it and made it a completely new and different thing. But he still has designs on making that, and I think there was some teases in the game that I won't get too specific about at the end of at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 that just point to what he wants to do.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
So there will be.
There's a higher likelihood or something to look forward to.
there's
It's a crossover.
a higher.
It's,
I don't know if
coming.
it's a crossover,
It
but
is.
it's something to do with Final Fantasy Versus 13. It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
So.
and basically, you see our two mains in that world,
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
And it
there
is-
is a bit of a.
and it is beautiful.
So,
That is one thing I will say about the ending. Seeing that was pretty cool. It pretty much confirmed what he and I were thinking, and when we actually saw like the teaser, we were kind of like,
Wait a second.
"That's
Yeah.
interesting,"
so
because it looked like in the middle of the game, basically, there's like a commercial
Huh.
for this thing, and you're like, I literally had to stop and go, am I
Wait, did
Did-
I skip something?
am I still playing Kingdom
Yeah.
Hearts right now?
Am I
And
getting
then it,
advertised to?
and then it jumps back into it. I'm like, when the hell did they add ads? Oh, it's just part of the thing. And then it shows up later in the end, and we were like, what?
This came back.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was actually pretty cool.
So, I'm sure Nomura has something up his sleeve, and I guess it's something for people to watch out for.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So that's that.
Nope, that's good to hear. And Copy did confirm that she has purchased over 200 amiibos at this point,
Congratulations.
and is missing a lot of the new Smash Bro ones, as well as some of the exclusive Japanese ones.
Word.
So, but good job. And said did buy the Monster Hunter set for friends, and so still went around other things. But yeah,
Cool.
it's a team effort. She does have like a network of people that they look out for ones because she used to work GameStop
Yeah.
up in Canada, and so still has like connections through some of those, and kind of the like. So when this one's coming out,
Let me know.
yeah, kind of
Yeah.
things. Anyhow, so with this, we've been having a fun discussion. Admittedly, we have gone an hour over our normal show, but that's okay because
Sorry.
this is the first time we've had both of you guys on, and so. Be it that you are also not just gamers but streamers, and so having discussions about the things we love with games and everything like that, I think is absolutely appropriate.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's been entertaining for everyone else who has stuck with us and done
Yeah,
it for here.
it's been great.
But with that, we are going to call it a show. However, before we go, I want you guys to be able to pimp, advertise, or otherwise anything you'd like everybody to check out. I mean, your own channels as well as anything that's you think important for everyone to be aware of.
The YouTuber I mentioned previously, Cosmonaut Variety Hour, he has a good sort of review or wrap up on Kingdom Hearts 3 if you're interested in that.
Same with Video Game Donkey, which I would agree.
if
I
you
love
like
Donkey
Video
Man.
Game
Big
Donkey.
Yoshi. I love that guy so much.
Yeah, that, of course, the SmashMuffins stream that Haley does.
Yes, I know it's sort of few and far between
it
lately
happens.
Yeah.
with
No.
streaming, but I would love to jump back into it. And I love when I get new people, and especially when you participate in the same way that we've had Copy and Jabroni today participating in chat. Please do.
How can people find you on Twitch?
Yeah, you can. You
Is
can
it-
friend me on Twitch.
Is it just Smash Muffins?
It's Smash
one word?
Muffins. Yeah, one word, Smash Muffins.
Yeah, one word, Smash Muffins.
You can find Twitch for that.
Yes, and I love when people participate and ask questions and help me out. I had when I started my Subnautica playthrough, I actually had a guy named Wicked Viking, who, if you're out there listening, hey, and I loved him helping me play Subnautica and like helping me avoid the Leviathan and giving me tips and tricks and stuff. Like,
Yes. I
it's
enjoy the
awesome.
audience participation. When I do
Heck
stream on
yeah.
my Duck Dead channel, normally it's Copy keeping me honest, but others have jumped in on occasion and been like, oh, I see what you're about to do there. And so I enjoy it when people have forced me through. Copy made me go through original Water Temple without any guide or help, which I
Wow.
did, and I
Wow,
was
that's
fine.
some
I actually
Wow.
knocked it
sadism
out
there.
in like 45 minutes. I felt good about myself.
Okay,
And so,
Could be
first
worse.
time through.
yeah.
Did a couple back and forths, but
Yeah.
figured it out. Still argue that Majora's Mask, whichever the temple is where you have to constantly switch it upside down and back and forth towards the end is probably worse.
Yeah. I'm also on Twitter, so I think I have an auto function that it posts to my Twitter whenever I'm going to stream. I think I have that set up, but you're welcome to follow me. I don't really post on Twitter outside of like when I'm streaming.
Yeah,
so
we do
that's
similar
about
with
it.
a lot of our Twitter. It's mostly our social media, our Facebook page with VTW shows,
Yeah.
our shows there that we do, and ShowX and such. But so it's no problem. It's a good way to get notified. So what's your Twitter handle?
It should be at SmashMuffins.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah,
same thing.
I think so.
On
Yeah,
Twitter and on Twitch.
Yeah, and if you actually go to my page on Twitch, you'll see in my banner that I have it. Like follow me on Twitter at this handle,
Awesome.
so you'll find that there. But yeah, Jack makes a feature.
Occasionally.
My sweet dog Samwise and my and my little boy Eddie.
The whole
They'll
gang.
pop in a bunch. Yeah, the whole squad in the house. So yeah, thanks for listening. And again, please send emails if you have
been a
questions.
great time.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for
You
having
guys are
us.
welcome to come back anytime, especially when you have specific things to discuss and share. It's always fun.
Totally.
So more than happy to bring you back. So with that, everybody, thank you for sticking in for the extra hour that we posted onto this show. Listen to ShowX on VtWProductions.com. As always, we're here every week. Next week, we should have Ken back. It'll be a Game Fest show next week. And so I don't believe I have to leave that Sunday, so it should still be Show Sunday for that one. The week after that, I will likely not be here because I'll be doing a martial arts demo, but Ken should have that one in hand. And so I think that's what we have for the next couple weeks coming up. And we'll see. Maybe special appearances and guests for this Game Fest. I've already had a few people message me saying they are coming through. That should be interesting.
We'll be there too.
So
Yep.
we'll check that out next Sunday. That should be a good time. And I still have to decide if I put the full rig in the basement or just my computer. I haven't decided. Maybe. We're also going to be doing some VR stuff, so
There we
look
go.
forward to potential streams over the weekend
Beat
as well from either this one or the other, or my Dark Dead channel. One of the two will probably have some of the Game Fest stream on it. We'll post. So thank you all for listening, and we will catch you again next week. It has been fun. And with that, we are out of here. Have a good week.
See ya.
Goodbye. See you next subby. Good night.